with 5,000 birds in 2012, moved up, upgrading the business and doing bigger houses, and currently we are doing 20,000 birds in a span of 5 weeks, that is 35 days. Anyone out there that wishes to do contract farming, please be encouraged. It may not look like it fetches a lot, but it is an assurance that you can do it over and over. And I would wish that we give it a try. Contract farming is the perfect thing, especially on the marketing of the products.
Contract farming has many agro-based advantages and it's a fast-growing practice, but it has not lacked its fair share of challenges. One of the issues that has come up when interacting with farmers that are doing contract farming is the feeling that they are not involved in decision making. For instance, they don't have control of some of these prices that they get. How do we fix this?
The problem sometimes becomes, in terms of contract farming, and I keep going back to this, is lack of trust. Buyers feel that even though there's a contract, if a farmer gets paid 10 bob more, they'll go somewhere else. So they don't trust the farmers to a certain extent. Farmers feel that these buyers are not taking any of the risk, they're not doing anything, and they're not paying me enough. They're not paying me what I should get paid. So that lack of trust means that although in theory contract farming is great, it can have difficulties. So first of all, it's building the trust between the buyer and the farmer, and I think definitely co-creation, discussion points in terms of pricing, why the pricing is at a certain place. Now, think about it from a farmer's perspective. A farmer finds out that, you know, a buyer has bought this from me from 20 bob and then they're selling it at 200 bob. So they will think, I'm getting, you know, like this is just unfair. But if a buyer is able to explain, well, it's 200 bob because actually, you know, out of that 15 bob has gone for, you know, transport, for cess, for cold storage. So actually the profit margin that I'm making is this much because I'm taking on all of this. I think a farmer is more likely then to be able to understand that perspective. On the other side, the buyer also has to understand the farmer's position. The farmer is taking all the risk. They're growing, they're doing all of this. They also need to be given a good return, because if they're not given a good return, what is the point? And there are buyers out there who are actually willing to pay a fair price and an above market price, provided they can get good quality and consistency.
Well, it's a venture that will require all players on board for it to thrive. And that's why the International Conference on Contract Farming could not have come at a better time.
The main objective of this conference is to try and ensure that farmers' produce does not go to waste, that they are able to take it to the market, that they are able to get people, off-takers, who will take their produce. And the off-takers are assured of a sustainable, quality, and consistent supply of raw materials.
I don't like it when my word is so complicated. I like it as simple can be. Good afternoon. All protocol observed, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As you have been told, my name is Dr. Esther Mushemi, the Group CEO, Samchi Group of Company, and I am delighted to be here today. I am an entrepreneur in various sectors. We are in telecommunications, we are in hospitality, we are in finance, real estate, and many others. And of late, we took the courage to get into agriculture. When I first set my foot in agriculture sector, I was a mechanization partner of one of the large institutions in this country. Somehow that did not go very well because they lost hope in the sector. And there I was, left with my tools on matters mechanization, and I had to move on because giving up is never part of my DNA. But as I began to understand about the agriculture, I developed a passion, I developed an interest on what goes in that sector. And I began to understand more about the problems of this sector. In particular, I had the privilege again of being a mechanization partner in the sugar industry. And what I learned about the sugar industry brought tears to me as a person, because there were the farmers with their farms willing to give their very best so that they can produce sugar for this country. And yet there were so many frustrations along the way. I couldn't believe that as a country, we were better off taking an option of authorizing importation of sugar rather than encouraging the small farmer to produce sugar. And I asked myself, what does it cost to enable this farmer to become producer of sugar? And sometimes all they needed was for somebody to help them in farming. We charge 2,500 per acre to cultivate for those farmers. And I asked myself, why can there be a partner, the government included, where they help the farmer to ease that problem? And yes, I then realized that the journey of an entrepreneur is never easy. And being an entrepreneur in the farming agri sector is much more difficult from where I sit than in all the other areas I have been. Let me tell you this. Agriculture is a backbone of our economy. If we get it right, I can bet that there is a high possibility and probability of increasing and stabilizing our economy. However, it is sad to note that majority of us are not involved in this sector. And I call it, and I dare say, this is an error. It is an error that needs to be corrected. And today, I'll focus on one area that needs to be corrected. That is finance and the insurance. However, before I go into it, I want us to have conversation on why is agriculture so backward? Why are people not getting involved in this? And I start about it, there are some issues that we need to deal with. One is lack of interest. People just don't have an interest in this sector. I was sharing with one person just before I came in, and I said, I wish my dad was alive today. Because as I grew up, I'm one of those girls who are told, Wajiro toka kwa shamba. Because my work was to make other people lazy. The thing was so difficult. For me, to have discovered myself later in life in matters of agriculture, I think I need to congratulate myself. The other problem we have is know-how. You go plant potatoes or tomatoes, You don't know where to start or where to end. There is an assumption that you know it all. Guys, I planted tomatoes. I harvested one season. I harvested the second season. The third season, I don't know where this disease came from. Nobody has warned me. And again, my crop, purugushu, it went. And I wonder, why can't we have expertise who tell us if you are planting tomatoes, they do better in Nyeri? I'm not sure about that. Rather than doing them in Kajiado, we are all taking a chance because we are ignorant. We do not have the know-how. Isn't it about time that we invest on know-how? Isn't it about time that we have institutions? Do you remember that extension agriculture thing? These days, nobody wants to do that. But isn't it about time as a nation that we come together? What about the cultural issues around agriculture? Some communities are brought up thinking it is not possible to engage in farming activities. Therefore, we have so much idle land across the nation. What about cultures allowed? How do we divide the land? I look at my grandfather's land. Today is being divided among 7, 10 brothers. My father happens to be one of them. Now, my brothers are fighting on that divided land. Now, how much can we divide this land? And if we divide it, will it be productive? Will it be worthwhile to engage in agriculture? Is it about time that we ask ourselves these questions? Must we divide the land? Or is there a way we can all come together and develop this land and make it more productive so that it can deliver results? For a long time, the young people have always thought that prosperity can always be found in the cities. And so, for a long time, there has been a migration to the city. I am glad that with the county government, with the devolutions, I'm praying and I'm hoping that this will change. The other thing I have noticed, and this is so real, is lack of market. You find the farmers are starting by planting the crop, but they don't know where the market is. I mean, is that wise? Let's first of all identify the market before we go to do the farming. There's also one thing I want to share with you, again, out of experience and what I have told myself. I'll never start farming wherever it is, wherever the land is, if I have not sorted the issue of water. Because this reliance on the weather is a major hindrance. Now, finance in agriculture. And for me, this is not just about providing loans. It is about creating a framework that supports farmers on every stage in the journey, whether it is small scale or large scale. And out of experience, I have again divided the need for capital in 2 levels. Level 1, which to me has been the biggest hindrance, the biggest thing that I needed to deal with, is what I call setup costs. The setup costs involves the costs of the land if you are buying the land. The setup cost involves setting up infrastructure in that land. And as you do this, which is heavy, there is no production that you can see in sight. And so it needs real strong muscles for many of us to even dream of setting up and going into the farming. When you think about the cost of blood, when you think about digging a borehole, which will cost you not less than 4 million. And even then, you have not started. By the time you do the irrigation, it will not cost you less than 6 million. Is that finance that is available to majority of the people? And so, if we want to encourage agriculture, government and institutions must start designing a way of dealing and overcoming this. Operation cost. How many minutes do I have? 1. Oh my God, I've not even started. Operation costs. That's another problem. How do you deal with them? The cash flows of agriculture are very different. What are other problems? And now I'll be quick. 1, lack of security. Even if you want to borrow, what security are you giving to the bank? Is it the crops? Is it the land? Is it the infrastructure? What security are you giving? Cash flows are very different, and banks and institutions need to begin to understand that the cash flows of farmers are not the same as these other people. Market frustration, the exchange rate is going this way and going this way and going that way. What does it mean to a farmer? The cost of inputs, again, they are going up, and the revenue is not necessarily going down, up. So banks should be sensitive to the needs of agriculture. I am daring to suggest that the governments need to come with a pool of helping the people in agriculture. Call it a farmer's pool. If we can do SHA, we can also do a farmer's pool that is going to help the farmers. Separate between the running and setup costs. Now, finally, I'll talk about insurance out of a personal experience so that you can understand where I'm coming from. Those who follow me in the Facebook must have seen me talking about it at some point. Where, yes, you see, it was real. You know, you have done your farming, you have done 2 seasons, the 3rd season, there are floods. Ilikuwa inaitwa El Nino, that one. And I'm in a farm, and the water is reaching me here with gumboots. And I said, oh my God, I ticked all the boxes except insurance. Not that I don't know, but for some reason, I did not tick that. What happens then? My crop went, my capital went. I'm surely now starting from square zero because that crop and that expansion had been out of the profits that I have made. So all my profits went. So I'm starting again. What is worse is even my search up to now has not given me credible insurance company that can insure me. So to a certain extent, I'm still carrying the risk. And therefore, let's ask each other, what can we do to cover this risk that is overcoming the farmers? I would have spoken more, but I've been given 1 minute. Thank you.
A round of applause for Dr. Mushemi. Thank you for keeping it so real. Thank you for speaking practically. Thank you for pointing out the real issues that we're facing. Thank you for calling out a challenge to the banks. So, Modoni Motonga, I hope you're prepared to respond since you'll be representing a bank up here. Our next speaker is Wycliffe Kiplagat. He is the Director of Programs Ibisa Network. Wycliffe, karibu.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, it's very difficult to speak after Dr. Mushemi, given that she hasn't found an incredible insurer till now, and I represent the insurance company. What a tough one. Okay, but let's see. We are here to find solutions to this problem. So I'm here to speak about insurance, and I'll pick from where Dr. Mushemi left. She said, the first season, things goes well. And this is how our farmers behave. And you see also, I'm among them, I know. You see, when we talk of insurance, I think even it never crosses the mind of most of the farmers until that day, that unforeseen event happens. Is when you say, I wish it would be too late because there is no going back. So I'm here to at least expand our know-how on this particular segment on insurance. And that's what Dr. Mushemi said. One of the things as a farmer, everywhere, across each professional setting, you have to be expanding your knowledge every now and then. So let me use this opportunity to at least shed some light on insurance, and we can pick it from there. So I represent an organization called Ibisa Network. It's an insurtech. We are dealing with climate insurance. So we are trying to come up with innovative insurance products to try and address the climate risks, some of which we know, the floods, the excess rainfall, and droughts in some other instances. So we are a global insurtech, and for us to enable this, or for us to really insure you, we work alongside insurance companies. And in Kenya, for example, we work with APA, Britam, among others. So for us alone, independently as Ibisa, we don't have that ability to take the risk, because as we are trying to be innovative to come up with these products that Dr. Mushemi mentioned. New products that will try and address the needs of the farmers. New products that will try and address the needs of the medium-sized enterprises in our country. So that's what is our challenge and what we are trying to do. So I will not mention this, but perhaps I know everyone knows the limitation and the gap that is there in the country. And for a fact, I don't know. So sometimes in this space, I usually feel, are we Kenyans probably reluctant to these particular events? Because I know those countries that are hit by these risks every now and then, they are alive to that fact that, in fact, selling insurance there is very easy. Because you can imagine some of the countries, like, for example, Philippines, that you know that the typhoon is coming. You are hit by a number of them. So the point is, you don't know how many will come this year. So for those type, or for those countries that are really impacted by these events at the higher frequency, they are really up and ready to take up insurance. And I think for us here in Kenya, it's high time that we do this. And as I even speak on climate insurance, yeah, same also goes for government. I hope this time they make sure work, because if they don't make sure work, it will be very difficult for us to convince even the farmer to take up the side types of climate insurance. So that's a challenge for the government to at least ensure the things that they take up. So because from where I sit, if government makes sure work, then I can go easily and convince the farmer, because perhaps within the community, they have had smooth experience with insurance.
Exactly.
But now it will become tough for me to sell when I'm already riding on a bad reputation, right from the government, who should be enabling things. So I think that's a challenge that probably I'll pass on to the government, so that at least then the community and our farmers and everyone can start taking up and appreciating insurance. So yeah, so these events are increasing in frequency, and hence the need for you as a farmer, even as you take up the contract farming activities, ensure that they are manageable risks you are protected from by having insurance. So these are some of the number of risks that you face in farming. There are the production risks, there is the human resource risks, because also we understand when you are in farming, by the time you get the right people that understand what you want, that understand the process in the farm, usually takes time. So those are some of the risks, the human resource risks, the financial risks. For example, we know to get credit, for example, here in Kenya as a farmer, is difficult, especially if you don't have any collateral. You don't have a title deed to your farm. You don't have any other form of collateral. So these are the major risks that you face. But for me, I will talk about the production risks, because that is where the insurance try to address. For these other risks, of course, there will be the political risks, there will be the market and price risks. The market and the price risks is what the contract farming is trying to address in the first place. So there are all these risks, but not all of them will be addressed or will be solved by insurance. There are other mechanisms. There are other solutions that will try and manage some of these risks that I have showed there or I have listed there. So I'll just speak to production risks, because the production risk is what insurance tries to mitigate or tries to cover the farmer from. Yeah, so this one is, I just wanted to give you a feeling for you to appreciate how much Africa is much behind in terms of agricultural insurance. So in terms of all those other jurisdictions, like if you can see Latin America and then North America, they are talking about 41% of their GDP being insurance. You go to the other side, China talking of 13%, and Latin America, they are 4%. When you come to our continent, 1%. 1% of the global written premiums in agriculture sector is coming from Africa. Now, out of that 1%, close to 60% is South Africa alone. The rest 40% of the 1%, you divide it to the other 54. So you can imagine the task that we face. You can imagine if catastrophic events are to happen in Africa, and yet this is the continent that we are calling it the agricultural continent. This is the continent with the young population in farming. But look at the statistics. It speaks a different image. And I think this makes me say that I think we should go back and assess to ourselves, just like Dr. Mushemi says, if agriculture is really important to us, our actions are speaking differently. Mm-hmm. That for sure. Take it to the bank. I might have been born yesterday, but the actions that I am seeing speak differently. If agriculture is really important to us as a sector, action should be speaking, because I remember probably sometimes when I was young, I remember there was ADCs, and it faded. I remember there was some ADCs, there was Agricultural Finance Corporation. But there do you hear about those things? Then if this is a very important sector to us, then we have to do a lot to it that shows. You see, if you are doing something important to that sector, you don't even have to convince a 3-year-old. They will see it. A 4-year-old will see it, that this is an important sector in our economy. But our action speaks differently. It's like that the people growing, just like Ramshemi said, they now want to go to Australia. And mind you, there will be huge farmers there in Australia who are Kenyans. Go to Canada, there will be huge farmers there. They'll go make it abroad because we've made it difficult for them to make at home. And that's for sure. I'm speaking this from reality, because I come from Nandi County. And the young population from my county are moving away to Australia in huge numbers. Huge numbers. And I'm very sure, give them 10 years. They'll be huge farmers. I'm sure already some of them are huge farmers there. But the same cannot be spoken of what is happening back at home. So I think it's a wake-up call to all of us. I am very sure all of us, everybody here in the room, we are all here to make money out of the farmer. But also remember, that same farmer has to make money. Mm-hmm. So Let's work towards making that reality for the farmer. Because from where I sit, the farmer will not be able to try out insurance if they don't have money. You see, a farmer operates like anybody else. A farmer is rational, just like anybody else. In a good year, when you make a good amount of money, then on those extra, you can say, let me try a vacation, let me buy this, let me try this out. But when the things are tight, for example, even our corporations, in a very bad year, you will not be hearing people talking of vouchers for Christmas, I don't know, end year parties, because there is no that extra money. But so same goes for the farmers. If these farmers make money, and that's what sustainability is. I know usually when organizations talk of sustainability, they are talking about themselves making money. They end it there. They don't include the farmer. But for me, I say, for everything to be sustainable, let's ensure that the farmer is also making the money. Because in the long run, when I come try to convince the farmer to take up the insurance, they already are lost. Do you think they will consider that? They will not. But if they are making money and there is at least some 20,000 left there, and I tell a farmer there is an insurance product that will protect you against flood, it's 1,500 Kenyan shillings. Of course, the farmer, like any other person, will be willing to try. Just like we've gone to the exhibitors there, we've seen them exhibit a number of things. And because you have some cash, maybe you've tried out one or two. Don't you think the same can happen to our farmers? It will, only if we ensure that they make the money. Yeah, so coming to the insurance product. So these are some of the products that are available globally on agriculture insurance. So there are mainly two categories of agricultural insurance products. So we call them indemnity-based and some index-based products. So indemnity-based are also called traditional. Traditional, what does it mean? That a product is indemnity-based or traditional product. So for this type of products, they are based on the actual loss that you experience. So for example, if you are a farmer, you have your 5 acres of land somewhere, you've covered it against, for example, the risk of flood. Then if you experience such a risk, you report it to the insurance company. They will send assessor to your field, and then they will come and quantify what percentage of your field has been affected by the flood risk. And then they will say you are supposed to be compensated this and this amount. So that is the indemnity based. The index based are now based on the satellites technology. They use proxy. They don't use the direct measurement. So we all know, for example, for those relying on rainfall, though Dr. Mushemi said we have to move towards irrigation, which is very right. So for those depending on rain-fed agriculture, we know that rainfall affects the yield. So somehow there is a relationship between the rainfall and the output that the farmer will get. So an index-based insurance then is based on the weather parameters. So it will be based on rainfall. It will, for example, be based on temperature. Or it will, for example, be based on the amount of forage that is available for those that are practicing pastoralism. So it's based on a proxy. It's based on an indicator. It is not based on the actual losses. So that is the index-based insurance product. And there are two of them. Weather index-based products, which means they are based on weather parameters like rainfall. So we'll say, for example, if you're a farmer in Nyandarua, if you don't receive like rainfall of like 100 millimeters, for example, in a given period of time, then you'll have experienced a risk of drought. So that's an example of an index-based product. Then the other ones, they are named peril and MBCI. So let me move fast because I don't like being the one keeping time. I am an actuary, then I should always keep time based on my experience. So this I will probably be shared with you, and you can dive deep to see the different types of products and how they work. So maybe I'll just bring to your attention three things for this particular product. So just like the things that we're discussing, all these products have got different advantages and disadvantages. Another one is preferred in given circumstances, another one is preferred in different circumstances. So, and each one of them will have its own limitations and advantages. So this an example that gives, for example, the weather index insurance product will not be suitable for someone who is doing irrigation because they'll have already eliminated the risk of erratic rainfall because they have now sufficient source of rainfall. So that is, for example, where the weather index will be relevant for where a farmer is dependent on rainfall and small-scale farmer in that instance. The indemnity-based products, because now they will require the monitoring, continuous monitoring. For example, if you take up an MBCI product, then there will be inspection once you plant, at the mid of the season, at the end of the season. Because the same issues that we were talking about, the issues of trust that we were talking about yesterday. Because remember, all across any other value chain, the biggest issue is what we call moral hazard. How sure am I that you'll act in my best interests? So yesterday, all through the sections that I was hearing yesterday, how sure am I that the buyer will honor the contract? How sure am I that the seller will honor the contract? How sure am I that the exporter will honor the contract? How sure am I that the government will honor its commitments? So this is usually the issues that we usually deal. They are the moral hazards, the issues of trust, the issue of morals in society, the issue of trust. So that is usually the disadvantage with that type of product, MBCI, because now it makes it expensive because I have to come to your field to monitor and see whether you really planted and how your crop is doing. So that the insurance doesn't give you insurance and then you neglect it, knowing anyway that you are covered and you'll get the losses. So yeah, I will stop there and then perhaps we can take up if you'll have any questions on this here. Thank you.
Thank you, Bwana Wycliffe. I think, yes, you can engage him on more clarity on the products in the Q&A session. We were to have Daniel Munyambu from Absa Bank, but due to unforeseen circumstances, he wasn't able to make it. And Angela Mwirigi, who was set to come from KCB, has sent Muthoni Mutonga. Muthoni Mutonga is the head of partnerships and new ventures at KCB. And it is my pleasure to welcome you up here, Muthoni. Karibu.
Good afternoon. So my name is Muthoni Mutonyi. No worries. It is spelled correctly there. Muthoni Mutonyi. I work at KCB Bank as the head of partnerships and new ventures. I'm here to represent Angela Mwirigi, who is the director for DFS at KCB Bank. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it because there's a meeting that ran longer than she expected. And so I'm here representing her. And I'm going to read the speech that has been prepared on behalf of KCB. So in a year marked by climate extremes and market fluctuations, access to finance and effective risk mitigation have become more critical than ever for Kenya's farmers. A combination of market uncertainties for agricultural produce, increasing climate variability, and the occurrence of extreme climate-related events in Kenya in recent years have negatively impacted agriculture and food security. This underscores the urgent need for tailored financial solutions to support our farmers. Recent data shows that our economy grew by 5.5% in 2023. This growth was primarily supported by agriculture, with the sector recording an impressive 6.7% growth in the third quarter, up from a contraction of 1.3% in the same period of 2022. The resurgence underscores the resilience and potential of our farmers and the agricultural sector, which is the backbone for our economy. At KCB, we understand that to unlock this potential, we must provide solutions that not only empower farmers, but also mitigate the inherent risks that they face. Our comprehensive range of financial and non-financial products aims to support the diverse needs of smallholder farmers, agribusiness, and the broader agriculture value chain. We offer a suite of financial products designed to support the agribusiness sector. For instance, we provide agri-loans aimed at assisting crop farmers, dairy farmers, and livestock keepers. These loans are designed to help farmers access critical inputs such as seeds, fertilizers, and equipment, enabling them to boost their productivity. We also have contracted crop loans. These are designed for farmers engaged in contract farming. These loans provide input financing and invoice discounting tailored to the specific needs of farmers working in seed multiplication companies and other reputable buyers. We also offer specialized financing through horticulture loans, which are made in partnership with organizations like HortiPro and Amiran Kenya. These loans support farmers who want to invest in modern farming techniques such as greenhouses and irrigation systems. Furthermore, farm development loans are available to farmers looking to expand their enterprises, acquire land, or invest in new machinery. These loans provide flexible repayment options, including one-off or annual payments, helping the farmers to grow their operations without financial strain. For farmers who operate in the tea and coffee sectors, we have Mavuno tea and coffee loans. These loans provide unsecured financing, not only for farm inputs, but also for personal expenses such as school fees, ensuring that the farmers are supported holistically in their daily lives. These products are designed to help both the individual farmers and tea factories to improve productivity and enhance the value chain of these key crops. In addition to these loans, in addition to these loan products, through our partnership with MasterCard Foundation, we launched MobiGrow. MobiGrow is a mobile-based platform designed to provide access to financing for over 2 million farmers across Kenya and Rwanda. MobiGrow makes it easier for farmers to access agribusiness loans via their mobile phones, thereby enabling them to expand their operations, improve their yields, and to secure their financial future. This solution is currently under development to improve the ability to provide not only financial services, but to add non-financial like training, market linkages, and networking ability. So let's talk about a bit about the risk mitigation strategies. So while access to finance is crucial, we as KCB understand that risk management is equally important for long-term success of our farmers and the sustainability of the agricultural sector. We offer a range of insurance products designed to safeguard farmers against these risks. Our risk mitigation solutions are broadly categorized into three. One is weather indexed insurance. This solution protects farmers. This solution protects farmers from financial losses due to adverse weather events such as drought and floods. By leveraging weather data, we can provide timely payouts that help farmers recover quickly from these challenges. Two is livestock insurance and capacity building. Through the Mifugo ni Mali program, the KCB Foundation has trained over 120 farmer producer organizations, the FPOs, and they have trained them in livestock management and provided insurance coverage to mitigate risks associated with livestock farming. And finally, through climate smart agriculture partnerships in collaboration with partners such as HortiPro and Amiran Kenya, we promote sustainable farming practices. These initiatives help farmers to adopt climate smart techniques that boost productivity while preserving the environment. In addition to our capacity building and advisory services, play a crucial role in helping farmers to better manage their risks. The agribusiness sector is poised to drive Kenya's economic growth forward. But this potential can only be realized through strong partnerships, innovative financial solutions, and a shared commitment to risk management. At KCB, we are proud to be leading this change. We're proud to be leading this charge and invite stakeholders to collaborate with us in exploring new opportunities to empower our farmers and ensure a resilient, sustainable future for Kenya agriculture, that our country becomes a beacon for food security. Thank you.
Thank you, Modoni Mutonyi. Another round of applause for Modoni. I think you should brace yourself for questions because you talked very positively about a lot of loan products and a lot of insurance products that are friendly for farmers. So prepare yourself for some questions around that because I think that's one of the pain points that's across the value chain. Thank you so much for that. Our last speaker in this segment is Jackson Echoka. Jackson Echoka is the Chief Risk and Compliance Officer, Agricultural Finance Corporation. Is he here? Oh, there you are. This is Wycliffe had asked whether AFC is still alive. I think Jackson will prove that it still exists. Karibu, karibu.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Jackson Echoka, as you've heard. I'm an agribusiness specialist and a data scientist, but I'll not present to you statistics. I'll just give you information. I've been listening to the speakers, and AFC has the answers. AFC is still there. On my first slide, I have a tested hypothesis focusing on the theme of this conference, contract farming. I've worked for AFC for 33 years. I've worked in your community. I know how you farm. It takes me less than 5 minutes to know that this will be a successful farmer or this one is headed for failure. So the question I want us to test in this forum is, can a typical Kenyan farmer take agricultural insurance without being compelled? The answer from AFC is yes, but with a condition. If there is a reliable market contract. At AFC, previously we used to be known as the bottomless pit, but we have changed, we have reformed. We now make decisions based on data. That's why you can see from risk, we have data scientists. I head that team. And farmers and other value chain actors. But because government funds are not enough, we rely so much on the commercial banks. So we come up with products that leverage private sector capital to be deployed to farmers in the same terms and conditions that AFC would have lent to these farmers. So the commercial banks that are here, the insurance service providers that you are here, the market agencies that you are here, AFC is your business partner. And we come with information. We have a pool of information. You can see we have 47 branches. When we are not lending, we are crunching numbers. When we are not lending, we are analyzing information. You can see we have very little presence in the northern Kenya, but I will tell you, we have partners that are working with us to deploy solutions to those areas. So as I said, I'll not give so much of data, it's just information. And the insurance companies, I'm singing your song. Benefits of agricultural insurance. First, it enables financial stability, both for the farmer and AFC as a lender. If I look at my portfolio, farmers that have embraced insurance through reliable contracts always pay their loans. And this I have I can say with confidence, because before AFC started implementing risk mitigation strategies that I'll share with you in the next slide, our default rate used to be 56%. And development partners used to run away from us. Currently, I can say with confidence, our default rate is below the average industry rate, 14% and below. And it's because we have deployed these strategies. So agricultural insurance has been able to make AFC reduce the default rates, achieve sustainability. The AFC of today, not the AFC of yesterday, is pursuing sustainability certification. And some of the strategies we use is insurance. We develop products for the farmer as well as service providers. We are the intermediary between commercial banks with excess liquidity and the farmer that needs the funding. Agricultural insurance enables farmers boost their resilience against climate shocks. It strengthens AFC capacity to withstand climate shocks, because as the farmers survive, we also survive. We realize that without the farmer surviving, AFC will not be around today. My brother, we are around. Agricultural insurance enables farmers deploy environmentally sustainable solutions. Water conservation, mechanization, reduce climate carbon emissions. Why? Because a farmer with a reliable contract is able to afford insurance. I will give you an example. I used to work in Trans Nzoia, not Uasin Gishu, and we used to do a lot of financing for wheat farmers. An average farmer would come for 100 acres of wheat, and currently, to grow 100 acres of wheat, you need about 6 million. So within 3 months, you've buried 6 million. Within the first month, you've buried 3 million through seed and fertilizer and mechanization. If it doesn't rain, go to Eldoret Referral Hospital. You'll find people of my age with stroke.
I know.
If it rains, fine. And wheat takes about less than 2 months now to require now sunshine. If it doesn't shine, that wheat is a loss. Go to Eldoret Referral Hospital. You will find a lot of people with. So one of the ways those that survive are those that do climate smart precision farming. And those ones are able to afford even insurance, because when you put 6 million in the soil and you're able to achieve higher yields and your margins are higher, because a bag of wheat right now in the market is 5,300. You put 6 million, you'll make 13 million. You're able to afford insurance premium. So I agree with you. Some of these products is because the proper strategies have not been put in place. And what are those strategies? Diversified business portfolios. When I was working in Uasin Gishu, if a farmer came and he is of my age, 56 years, and he tells me he's doing wheat, 100 acres, I ask him, do you have any other business? No, I just do wheat, because in 3 months, I'll be rich. Then that one, I put a question mark. But if a farmer comes and he says, I'm doing 50 acres wheat, 50 acres maize, and some dairy cows, that one I know, if the crop doesn't germinate and he has a good insurance, they will replace the seedling, and he's able to quickly replow because it's just 3 months. But if it germinates and there's no sunshine, that wheat will not ripen. Then there's a livestock, you can turn it into stover. So that's what we mean by diversified business portfolios. And even in AFC, we deploy our resources through various sectors to value chain segments to mitigate those risks. Climate resilience. If a farmer is not implementing some of those, like planting drought-resistant seeds, the seed companies, I hope you're here and you're hearing, and doing soil conservation, doing soil testing, we know that farmer will face some challenges. And we don't, like the banks, when you go to the bank and they find that you are not meeting their requirements, they just close the door. But in AFC, we take your data. That's why I told you, when we are not giving credit, we are crunching numbers. So that now when we understand where the issue is, now we walk to the bank. We are participating in risk sharing initiatives being implemented. We've heard of the Kenya Credit Guarantee Company. That company, Kenya Credit Guarantee Scheme, picks information from the DFIs that are there. So that one has enabled us promote sustainable practices to mitigate climate risks and support sustainability goals. Then insurance. We try to educate our farmers that insurance is an input in your production process. Don't look at it as a cost. It is a factor of production. And those farmers that embrace this, and even the sugarcane farmers, are able to make good decisions. But it only goes alongside technology. A farmer that does not have information on where to get the right seeds, the amount of fertilizer to deploy, will not be able to benefit. So another risk mitigation strategy is enabling the farmers to access information. For example, the sugarcane farmers suffer because sometimes they do wrong planning. The cane will mature in 18 months, 24 months. They have not put in a plan on how they are going to cover the other farming enterprise costs. So you'll find that a farmer that is not working with a good plan will take fertilizer, and this is what happens. That I hope the farmers, you are here. He will go, he is given trader credit by the company, he takes 4 bags for fertilizer, he sells 2 at a cheap price, applies 2. That's why at the end of the trading accounting period, the farmer gets negative. But if we were to work through proper contracts with the responsible markets that are able to advise the farmer properly, work with insurance companies, the farmer will be able to make the right decision, because with all these strategies, with access to technology, access to real-time weather and yield data, the farmer is able to make good decisions. I want to sum up by confirming my earlier hypothesis. A farmer that has a good contract with secure markets is able to adopt insurance without compulsion. Currently, the only insurance that the farmer understands is a credit life. So we need to do more capacity building for the farmers to take up more insurance. And we've worked with these farmers. And this is the response you get from farmers that have succeeded. I can access and manage my loan digitally. That is a farmer that is technologically enabled. I'm connected to trusted input suppliers, the correct fertilizer, the correct seed. My produce is safely stored in secure warehouses. Currently, the government is coming up with a framework for warehouse receipts. Please, commercial banks, AFC is not there to compete you. We are there to complement you. Let's work together. I have access to reliable local and export markets. That is a testimony for farmers that have succeeded. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause for Jackson. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for illuminating the work of AFC, but more importantly, that it requires a conducive environment. Yeah, that it's not just about credit lines, it's about a conducive environment of the right inputs for this to work. So we have concluded the presentations and we want to open it up for questions. So whoever has the mics, please be ready. Can we have hands up so that we take the questions? So you can say your name and then you can say to whom the question is directed. This one here.
My name is Lillian Kirwa. My question goes to Wycliffe on insurance. Do you have a comprehensive insurance? Because I hear weather index, especially for crop and livestock. So I'm wondering, farmers normally do mixed farming. Why do you want them to choose on what to insure? Why don't you give them package that covers both crop and livestock? And if that's not possible, if we are covering crop against weather, there is the risk of pests and diseases too. So how do you cover that? Is it under weather? And I'd like to understand how you cover the pests, because it's also as a result of failing rain, and we have more pests attacking the crops. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a question that speaks to specific products against specific risks. Another question. Let's take a few and then we'll have you guys speak. Oh, yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Nancy Muthoni. My question goes to Muthoni of KCB. What I'm asking, she was telling us about the Mobi banking or Mobi whatever. But that Mobi, I think it's not for farmers, and they only give once per month. You pay after 30 days. So what do you do about, like, if I want to take a loan, how can I go about it, about farming? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon. My name is Jerioth Mwenda. I'm in the insurance industry, working on agriculture insurance. So the two questions that I have is to Kiplagat and AFC. Do you encourage us to tailor-make products, and what is the role of the reinsurer in this, and how long would it take to work on a product and implement it? And what are the underwriting? Would there be delays in underwriting? And then the last one, maybe this would be answered by Kiplagat, is what would happen if we want to work on a product that our Kenyan insurers are not offering? For example, aquaculture. And then to financing KCB, I've been listening around to banks, and I've tried reaching out to a number in any conference that I go to, because you're always doing the presentations. So in our case, our business model is commission earned, so it is not consistent. And when we try to explain to you on what we do and how we make money, then you're not able to bridge the gap. So we end up going without financing. I don't know how that can be addressed. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Salimo, the voice of agriculture. I'm the co-founder of Agriculture Made Attractive. My question goes to Dr. Esther Muchemi. You have highlighted a number of challenges that we are facing and as farmers. But would you tell us what are the solutions that you're looking to bring into place? What is January Farms doing? And what is you as an individual? You are a powerhouse. You're a voice in this era and age. What solutions would you bring on the table, or would you encourage us to bring into place so that then we are able to encourage more young people to join the agricultural sector? Because I think if you are speaking the way you're speaking in a conference of youth in agriculture, I feel like everybody would run away and not enter into agriculture anymore. So help us to understand the flip side of it is what are the solutions that we should look into bringing into all those challenges? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jean Jiro, and my question is to Muthoni, KCB. And the question is, how do you reach the farmers with these products? You mentioned quite a number of products, but how do farmers get to know about them? And also to Dr. Mushemi, you mentioned that you are in finance, but we didn't understand what you are doing in finance. Are you financing farmers? For instance, maybe you can explain.
I think let's take one more question and then we will let the speakers respond. Go ahead.
Thank you, Nimo. Many times you have not seen me. You people like seeing this end that way. But anyway, thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to ask all the presenters a question. All of them. Since I think it's going to be a good question for all of us. I've seen the investment levels in our various entities. In Kenya, the map which we were just shown from AFC, 20% of Kenya is taken care of. 80% remains unventured. Yet, one resource remains most expensive, yet also most destructive, and this is water. Is there any of us interested in venturing into water supply? Because you have millions and millions of money in the banks, in the insurance companies, in FC. You're waiting for people to come and get the money, insure the money, tax it, and all that. Is it possible that we, the big fishes of Kenya, can be able to reverse the oil pipeline from Mombasa to Kisumu, and instead have water going back through the drier parts of this country, so that we can talk of contracting farmers in those areas? We are concentrating on land that Esther says we should not divide anymore because it's not there to be divided. Can we explore those areas so that or is it too difficult for us to drill? Or we have tried to drill water, instead we find oil. Then it will be a new venture. So my challenge to our partners, all of us, those who are presented wonderfully here, what are we doing about 80% of Kenya? Somebody talked about the ASO, that is where we're doing livestock and all that. Have we given them water? What do we do with the excess water? Can we pump it from the lakes that are expanding, bring it upland and use it? That is my question.
Thank you. Thank you. I think for the other questions, we will perhaps try to see the speakers outside of the sessions. But if we can just start with Dr. Mushemi, you can speak to you have been challenged that you laid out problems. You have been challenged to also talk to the youth about what potential solutions are there. I think for Wycliffe and Muthoni, you've been challenged, and also Jackson, it's more about the products and all that. And then generally, I think as you give your closing 1 minute, you can speak to the issue of the part you can play in water access. Yeah, thanks.
First of all, let me acknowledge and let you know I'm one of the most optimistic people in life generally. I'll never want to leave anybody at a point of feeling it is this bad. So if I did that, my apologies. But the other thing I like doing is allowing people to have a conversation, to have an engagement, because I believe that when great minds come together, then great solutions are also released. So I'll talk about the possible solution on the finance. And I had listed a few of the solutions. It's only that I didn't have time to go through my whole speech. And one of the areas that I think I wanted to address is the banks. I am saying the banks need to be more sensitive on matters agriculture. I am saying the policies that govern other sectors of the economy are not necessarily applicable to the agricultural sector. So one of the conversations that we need to start having is what can financial institutions do to help agriculture? And I'm glad to hear that AFC still exists. For me, I thought it was long dead. Again, we are saying, is it possible that we come with a pool that can help farmers? It is a conversation that we need to release in the marketplace. In every gathering where we are, let's start provoking the leadership to understand that the problems of the farmer is not only about the fertilizers, there is a lot more that needs to be done. I'm also saying, even you as a farmer, you need to understand that the costs of farming can be divided into two, as I suggested. And when you are dealing with the capital cost, I like what one of my brothers said, that if you are not diversified, then you have a problem. I'll tell you this. The reason why, when I went down in my earlier conversation, I was able to come back is because my other businesses are able to finance agriculture and allows me to come back. In fact, I dread, and I've said this before, if it was a young man who had invested their everything, what would they have done? So there is a place of diversification. There is also a place of what we are calling today aggregation of farmers. I am also beginning to understand that because I am in it, where you bring together farmers that are farming the same crop in the neighborhood, and then you give solutions. Don't just go on your own on matters of agriculture. Is it possible that those sugar farmers can come together and get a common solution? I think those are some of the suggestions that I want to give us and allow us to think about. For the young people, let me tell you this. I think I have to talk to them because I love them. Let me encourage the young people and tell you this. It is well documented and now accepted that the next billionaires are going to come out from agriculture. Let me also tell you this, that 65% of the arable land in the world is in Africa. This is what I think. Africa will either feed the world using their 65% of the land, or the rest of the world will come to Africa and feed the world, including Africa, using our land. Surely, young people, take the challenge and let's feed the world.
Wycliffe?
Yeah, I don't know whether it's on. Okay. Yeah, so I've been asked, I think, a question on the product comprehensive coverage. So to answer this question, so I speak of two products, the indemnity-based and the index-based products. So I said the index-based ones are based on weather parameters, but the indemnity based or the multi-peril, from the word multi, it means that it covers many risks. So how this particular product works, the multi-peril crop cover, is that at the end of the season, so let's, for example, take if it's maize, for example, at the end of the season, then we'll come and assess how the crop is doing. So from that, then how the product works is that the farmer is guaranteed a certain level of coverage. So like, let's say, for example, 70% coverage per acre. So at the end of the season, then we'll come and assess whether how far are you from what we guaranteed. So if there is some deviation, for example, if deviated like $3 from what we guaranteed, then you'll be compensated the difference. So from that particular case, that product covers all the risks. So it doesn't care what caused the reduction in the yield. So the multi-peril crop cover covers all the risks, including the pest and diseases that you mentioned. The catch why this particular product is difficult to administer is because it will need your farm record data so that the insurer can be able to tell you how much premium you pay, of which this is usually the challenge with record keeping. And I think if there are farmers in the room, I would also encourage them to go digital, because I think it's also a struggle across for all the financial service providers, whether banks, whether insurance, and even for your own personal goods as a farmer. So that's usually the challenge. Lack of records from the farmers is what hinders us from deploying that product. And hence you'll find the index-based ones that are weather-based and satellite-based being more famous than the other ones. So that's why you're finding it's a little bit silent here. And it's more famous for the large-scale farmers here. For how long it takes for us to develop the product, and what happens if a product is not registered by the Kenyan insurance companies. So for that, for sure, because like I mentioned, we are an insurtech, so we can't take the risk. At the end of the day, we'll have to work with an insurance company. So if the insurance company haven't, because we designed the product with them, it's joint work, so it's collaboration or it's co-creation. So we design the products together, and they are the ones to go to the Insurance Regulatory of Kenya to get the product approved. If it doesn't go through, then perhaps we can explore other regional insurance companies. We have those insurance companies like Sanlam that operate at a bigger scope. So then I'm very sure at that level or at that regional level, then we can have probably the risk being taken by such insurance company. How long? It depends with the risk, because at the end of the day, we are designing the product with the client. So we have to reach an agreement, but I would say two days to at least maybe 2 weeks in maximum, depending on the complexity of the product and the stakeholders involved. For the water supply one, yeah, I think that's a valid question. And sometimes if you keep wondering and wondering, 80% of Kenya is unproductive at the moment. So I think it's a big thing that we should be taking at the back of our mind. But I would say if government signals, I think it's just government, if government signals and probably takes the first steps, because I even don't think even we'll have to worry the level of probably even the water in the ground. We have a lot of water on the surface that we haven't utilized. So I would say if we utilize the surface water through some dams first, convert a view. The private sector follows the money. Once they've seen the opportunities, you'll see them coming like they are entering the beehives. That's what the government needs to do. But till then, the private sector is not seeing any opportunity there. And I'm very sure it's the government that will have to signal. Once you signal that, I am very sure that 80% will be converted. Yeah, but it's a good opportunity, and I think we have to be thinking about it.
Thank you, Wycliffe. There are some representatives from the Ministry of Agriculture, so they have heard your clarion call. And I think you also pointed out that if the support will rely, if insurance product support will rely on data, there is a gap for capacity building and partnership. So I think the challenge there is for you all, how are you working with the farmers to make sure that they do go digital, that they do know how to record data and so on and so forth? Modoni?
Okay. I hope this is working. You can hear me?
Yes.
Very good. So I have noted down 4 questions. So the first question was a question on Mobi. She said that I'd spoken about mobile banking, and the mobile banking that we have doesn't quite appeal, or is not very well tailored for farmers. And so to answer that question, what I spoke about really was a new product that we're launching in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation. And that product is called Mobi Grow. Mobi Grow is a product that we're developing specifically for farmers, and it will contain some financial products so that you can borrow for your farm, and therefore the loans on Mobi Grow will be tailored for farmers, and therefore will work the way you work. But beyond that, there will be also some non-financial features in that product. Those features will include training, market linkages, and also networking ability. So we're looking to support farmers in various ways, in financial and non-financial ways. So look out for this product that we're developing with MasterCard Foundation. It's coming soon, and I think will be very useful for the farmers in the room. And let me link that to one of the other questions that was asked, where somebody asked me, how do farmers know about the products that I talked about? I talked about some loan products and also talked about some insurance products. And that, for me, that question being asked is a challenge to us, that perhaps we're not putting the word out as much as we should. But these products can be accessed in the branches. If you walk into any of our branches and ask to speak to somebody in customer service, they should be able to give you more information about the products we have available. But beyond that, we're talking about going digital on our website. If you go onto our website, kcbgroup.com, and search our website, you will find a section in there that we have dedicated to agribusiness. And in that section, we've talked about the loans that are available to farmers and other products that are available to farmers. So that's a first good source. You can go there right away. But the nearest branch, the most convenient branch to you, should be able to also give you that information. I was also then asked about someone asked about the loans. I think it was a very specific question on she earns by commission, and it seems maybe our loans don't quite, our ability to offer her the loans may not quite match how she earns her money. And I guess that's a very specific one. Perhaps we may need to dig deeper, but I want to assure you that we are taking a lot of steps to make sure that we're able to lend to any individual, farming or not. And we're taking advantage of technology to make sure we're able to credit score our customers in the best way possible. We're using AI, machine learning, just making sure that we truly understand you and can be able to lend to you, even if you earn in a non-conventional way. So just to be sure, this is an area of focus for us. We want to be able to lend to you in the way that you earn, and we can be flexible. It's an area that we're getting into. I think now the final question that I'm addressing is on the water question. And at KCB, we're actually paying attention to climate smart financing. And so the thought that occurred to me when that question was asked is, perhaps if there is an individual or a company out there that is interested in a project that would get water to the right places, we could support by financing that project or collaborating in some other way. So it's an area of interest. I mean, we could probably talk about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Modoni. Jackson.
Yeah, thank you. There were 2 questions to AFC. Do we tailor-make products? Yes, and I confirm to you, we have 3 products that we are rolling out that have been developed at the AFC, tailor-made through co-creation with development partners. One of them, and the Minister of Agriculture is here, is Enable Youth. 2 months ago, we advertised for youth that are ready to undertake agribusiness projects, brownfields and greenfields, to apply. The last time I checked that database, I saw about 12,000 youth have applied.
Wow.
The funding that is available is for about 2,000 loans. These youth are going to be taken through incubation centers. They are going to be taught how to do business plans and be linked to markets. We encourage insurance service providers to come and link up with the youth for structured deals around their projects. And the expected demand is beyond the supply that we can make. So we also have a component called risk sharing whereby private sector banks will be invited to finance those youth through a risk-sharing arrangement administered by AFC as the risk fund manager. That is one. Two, just check your website right now. There's an advert. AFC is calling for proposals from MFIs and SACCOs that are ready to lend products that target green finance projects. One of them is water harvesting. It is on the website right now. If you know of a SACCO that is ready, and for those SACCOs to qualify, there'll be a series of questions, and SACCOs that are working with the insurance service providers will score higher and are able to deploy that solution. We are working on a warehouse system with the financial sector deepening and AGRA. That one will be rolled out very soon. Yeah, on the issue of water, in 80% of Kenya, let me tell you, we are pioneers. We started with the National Irrigation Board some 2010. Over 15 years ago, we developed an irrigation product that did very well in Ahero, and it is still going on now. We do a lot of rice. We scaled up this product in Tana River. Tana River, before the stimulus program, were just producing commercial maize. But when AFC joined the stakeholders there, we were able to develop a product, and we work with the seed companies. These are contracted farmers. They produce for those seed companies. And why those areas? Is because we are able to harvest water from Tana River, channel it in irrigation schemes, and because of the vastness of the land and the rich alluvial soil, and the ability to meet separation issues, we produce very good seed. That is the seed we will supply to other regions for maize. And previously, rice was not being grown there, but we are doing seed for rice, and this is being marketed up to even Ethiopia. The best seed is from Tana River, rice. Follow me, I'll give you more information on that. And we are scaling up these projects. You know, we are taking back now to where we started. In Nyanza region, we are able to do 350,000 acres of irrigated crops, and rice being one of them. Why should we import annually 1 metric tons of rice yet we can produce locally?
Exactly. That's the question. I think you have left it on a very good note. You have given us a lot to think about. Let's give a round of applause to this panel. Thank you so much, all of you. I'm sure a lot of people here were taking notes. Please ensure that the folks in the room can reach you, because I know there's a lot of questions, follow-up questions that they have with regards to insurance and financing products. So thank you. Legal frameworks and agreements underpin contract farming. We've had several discussions over the past day and a half, how farmers are often at the mercy of buyers, and how buyers are also shortchanged by farmers, side selling anyone, and so on. And so how do we get contracts that are fair, that are enforceable, that cover the players in the way that they should be covered? And what are those legal issues that must be addressed? There's been a lot of questions around breaches of contracts and how to handle that. So our next panel is going to hopefully shed some light on this. This is the panel on legal aspects of contracts between farmers and buyers. We have Dr. Kenny Kariuki. Karibu sana. We also have Christine Morangi. Dr. Kenny Kariuki is Director, Impact Hub, Nairobi. Christine Morangi is a Senior Associate at IKM Advocates. The session will be moderated by Faith Cheriot. Faith is the partner at DECC Law Advocates. Karibu sana, Faith. Karibu sana. We had Caleb Karoga, the Chief Executive Officer of Wendy Farms, was unable to make it, unfortunately, and also Wangari Kuria. Barend Eyes, who's a board member, South Africa Agri Initiative, was unable to make it but sent a video. So I think before the panel discussion begins, let us listen to this video. It's only about 5 minutes, and then I will hand it over to Faith. You will pick it up from there. Karibu.
Thank you.
The Family Farmer Network of Southern Africa appreciates this opportunity to share a few words on contract farming in Africa from the perspective of families that make a living from farming. From the perspective of primary producers, the contract farming that are under discussion here basically entails an agreement between a commercial entity or company and a primary producer, with each party responsible for agreed deliverables subject to specified conditions. In a typical contract between a farmer and a company, the company provides all inputs, for example, seed, fertilizer, fuel, herbicide, pesticides, and wages. The company further provides the farmers link to the market, like processors, for example. The family farmer provides the product at a specific volume and quality within a specified time frame. The farmer is therefore enclosed or caught between the upstream and downstream parts of the supply chain by the company. Contract farming has advantages, for it typically solves most of the challenges faced by smallholder farmers in Africa, such as access to inputs, financing, insurance, and the market. This is the reason why contract farming is very popular in most of Africa, where the above-mentioned challenges are a reality. Contract farming, however, also has some disadvantages, and very specifically for the farmers that are parties to these contracts. The reality is that there is a power imbalance in the relationship between the farmer and the company. A big company, for example, has a whole legal division, whilst the farmer typically can't afford a lawyer. When confronted with a contract, the farmer's only choice usually is take it or leave it, resulting in a contract that does not balance the interest of the farmer and the company in a fair way. The farmer typically has no option to use or access alternatives. The farmer are forced to use only the company's inputs, such as seed and fertilizer, its specifications, etc. The company typically contracts for an amount of product that are more than they actually need or plan to utilize. Due to the power imbalance and biased contract, the company finds ways not to pay for the additional product produced, such as to write it off due to some requirement or specification not met. The farmer are delivered to the company for advice, and due to possible penalties, deductions, and fixing of prices for both inputs and product, as stipulated in the contract. The farmer furthermore carries all the risk. The company therefore determines the price of the inputs and the product and encloses the farmer from both ends of the supply chain. This unfortunately easily leads to the manipulation of profits. The company knows exactly what the cost of production was. The company determines the price of the product as well as the amount of product traded. Many times, this results in the farmer making little profit, if at all. In actual fact, the farmer often ends up owing the company money, which leaves the farmer with no choice but to sign another contract for the next production cycle. In many cases, the company unfortunately keeps the farmer's nose just above the water level, and when the farmer dares to complain, the company just dips the farmer's nose under the water level to keep the farmer grateful. Contract farming typically takes place in closed value chains, which means that a product that is produced cannot be sold on street corners, local markets, or anywhere else. Tobacco and cotton are typical examples. Only processors buy these products, so there is no way out. or an alternative market available to the farmer. In 2015, the Zimbabwean government, for example, boasted that the output of tobacco and cotton production was restored to pre-year 2000 volumes. A comparative study by Sakao, however, showed that Zimbabwean farmers earned only 15 to 20% of the global average price per ton for those two products. In conclusion, contract farming can be an excellent solution for the development of agriculture in Africa. Or it can be a modern form of slavery where the farmer just survives, has no way to grow or a way out. Will we, as a continent, dare to dream of a future where farming contracts are fair and just and truly mutually beneficial to both company and farmer? Can we imagine the positive impact this can have for all farmers and communities of Africa? As a family farmer network, SAI therefore believes that African farmers urgently need a cheap, accessible, and efficient conflict resolution mechanism, like a contract farming tribunal, preferably linked to the regional economic communities, even though the experience of the purposeful disempowerment of the SADC tribunal has damaged the reputation and trust in SADC as an institution. Such a tribunal can serve as a watchdog over the integrity and fairness of farming contracts. This is an urgent matter in the context of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, fair trade and trade not aid. In the context of all our efforts to unlock the wealth of agriculture on our continent and the economic emancipation of Africa, in the context of the Africa we want.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you for this opportunity to discuss aspects relating to legal matters on contract farming. You've been able to hear what Mr. Barron has said, and he's given his opinion on this relationship between the farmer and the buyer as far as contracts are concerned. And he seems to be of the view that this is an imbalanced relationship where you have according to him, the farmer is a disadvantaged party in this relationship. So before we are able to really get to answer that question and see what my panelists have to say on that position, how we would like to run this session is essentially to make it a question and answer session. I have a couple of questions that I'll direct at my panelists, and then we'll open the floor to everyone in the room to ask your questions, and then we'll try and take, because we are really short of time, we're running short of time, we'll try and take as few questions as possible. So my first question is directed to Ms. Christine, and I'd just like to hear, for the benefit of farmers and buyers in the room, what are the key legal considerations that farmers and buyers should be aware of when entering into contract farming agreements? Ms. Christine.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. As has been said, my name is Christine Morangi. I work with a law firm called Iseme Kamau and Maima Advocates. IKM Advocates is a full-service law firm, and we help our clients in supporting their businesses and any business challenges that they encounter. We help them in resolving those. So in terms of the question that has been asked about the legal considerations in entering into contracts with farmers, I think I'll just mention 4 legal considerations. And just to say that in Kenya, there is no specific law that deals with contract farming or that addresses contracts between farmers and off-takers. So the general principles of contract apply to contract farming. And these are the principles that I will cover. And one of those principles is, a meeting of the minds. Basically, two people that want to enter into an agreement have to agree on what is it that they want to regulate between them. So if an off-taker is interested in purchasing, let's say, tomatoes or onions or Irish potatoes from you, the agreement has to be specific. This is the reason we are entering into this contract. So a meeting of the minds. So what is the quantity that is expected? What is the quality? How will that relationship be governed from the start to the very end? What is the land where the crop will be planted? Those are some of the issues that both parties have to agree on. They're called pre-contract, engagements before you even enter into the agreement itself. The second item is the authority and capacity. Both parties have to have authority and capacity to enter into contract. And what do I mean by that? So in Kenya, a person who is under 18 years, they are considered not to have legal capacity to enter into an agreement. I mean, if it's a contract in relation to a crop that is to be planted on a certain land, if someone does not have the title to that land, it also essentially means that unless they lease that land or unless they hold any other legal rights over that land, then they will not also have the authority or capacity. One of the questions that was alluded to in a session earlier is that for most of the farmers, they enter into what are called self-help groups or chamas. And the issue was that, do chamas have legal capacity to enter into contracts? And really, the law is that a self-help group can register itself under the Ministry of, it's called Social Enterprises. There's such a ministry. So you register your chama, you're given a certificate of registration, but that's not the end. Before you do the registration, you're supposed to appoint officials, a chairperson. There are typically three: a chairperson, a treasurer, and a secretary. And those are the guys who assist you in opening a bank account, having a PIN. They act as the trustees of the self-help group. So if the chama were to enter into an agreement, then you will need to look at what is the constitution of this self-help group and who are the parties that are allowed to enter into agreements on behalf of the self-help group. So that's the issue of authority and capacity to enter into these agreements. The other issue is the rights and obligations of the parties have to be specified in the contract itself. And because I'm speaking to farmers and off-takers, I will not delve into the nitty-gritties because those are specified in the contract itself. So the last item I will speak on is alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, which were alluded to in the sessions yesterday and even today. Basically, farmers and off-takers arguing that they would prefer mediation, arbitration, as opposed to court processes. So if you want, if a dispute arises, if there is no provision for ADR mechanisms, alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, in an agreement, then automatically, if there's a dispute, that contract will head to court. So you want to ensure that there's a provision allowing for mediation, arbitration, all those out of court settlement mechanisms before either of the parties can then head to court. But not to say that the court processes themselves don't work. Recently, there was introduced a small claims court, which is provides for a very fast-track method of resolving disputes. So to the extent that both parties are not comfortable with ADR mechanisms, then they can consider, either of the parties can consider taking the dispute to court, but through the small claims court. But I think the disclaimer there is that the small claims court has a limited jurisdiction, such that if the amount in dispute is higher than, let's say, Kenya shillings 1 million, then the fast track option under the small claims court would not be available to the parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine, for laying out the key legal principles and capacity for one to enter into a contract. I'd also like to perhaps hear from Dr. Kariuki if there's would like to also chip in on this question?
Sure thing. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kenny Kariuki. I'm an agricultural political economist and also a lawyer by training, so I can hopefully chime in on some of the things that are going to get said by my colleague. Essentially, when it comes to agriculture and when it comes to this, I think it's the way I look at it is not so much from the legal perspective. So you're not going to hear so much, shall I say, hard letter law. I'll be speaking more on the principle of political economy, i.e., the power dynamics when it comes to contracting. Because there's a reality of if you are a farmer, a smallholder farmer, which is a majority of the population, and you're working in a rural area, there's a peculiarity where you might find, as she mentioned, there's no specific law, there's no specific court. And then, of course, when it comes to contracting, who represents you in that contract? Are you represented by an organization? Are you by yourself? Who comes with the contract? Who understands the terms of the contract? So she said some amazing things that make sense in a typical contract. And one of my previous engagements in vocation was working at the International Institute for International Private Law in Rome. And they create actual instruments on what is model law in terms of contracting. So when it comes to instruments, I think Kenyans will all say, we have the instruments, we have the laws, they exist. But when it comes down to this question, what are the legal considerations? I'll pivot to say the key issue for someone who is maybe not in the same position in terms of power is to say that there's something called collective action. Collective action is something that is always disabled when you find cooperatives, when you find big groups, because it is wonderful when it sings in the hymn of, shall I say, those in power, but doesn't work so well when actual farmers work together. You can talk about the Kenyan Farmers Federation, you can talk about the history of Kenyan agriculture, how different groups have come together to amalgamate, and how that has not worked typically. Now, when you look at certain typical market associations when it comes to contracting, especially in commodities where there is a market like in tea and in coffee, historical commodities that are for export, then you might find contracting does seemingly work. However, if you're a farmer with some maize or some horticulture, you might find very quickly that it's not as typical, or maybe you don't have the same protection of guardrails. So what I believe my colleague mentioned was a good way to say this is how to frame it. What I'm going to be talking about primarily today is essentially the issue of power dynamics when it comes to the reality of, yes, I would love to say that, you know, we are equal parties before the law, you come, I come, you know, supply, demand, etc. But the reality is that maybe I don't have your interest at heart. And when we talk about even the policy framework around agriculture, you might hear great rhetoric about policy after policy that is meant to support smallholder farmers. Yet, till this date, we haven't had a structural transformation of our economy. We still talk about almost the same things in a very frustrated way. And if anything, it's a private sector that sometimes fills those gaps. But the question is, when it comes to this question, what considerations that should be taken? I'd say the key consideration is for farmers or people who are organized in agriculture to first consider actually organizing in terms of if it be community level, be it ward level, county level, around what that commodity is. Find your representatives, find the organizations that actually work for you because they exist and advocacy exists. However, sometimes those information costs are very high and you might not actually know that that proposition exists. The second thing is to basically address it in the sense of, okay, once we understand what the contract is, who's going to be our key representative and is there trust? And that's a whole other thing, but I'll stop there because I know time isn't with us.
Thank you, Dr. Kariuki. Thank you, Dr. Kariuki. Key takeaway is that if you're in a group or a cooperative, ensure you're well represented and the person who's representing you has capacity to enter into contract on behalf of your cooperative. But of course, you can also always enter into a contract as an individual, so long as you're above 18 years between you and a buyer or an off-taker upon your set agreed terms of your contract. So to my second question now, to my panelists, how can contracts be structured to protect the interests of both farmers and buyers? And before you answer, I would just like to disclose to our members of the audience, the truth is, we lawyers, we always draft contracts to suit the interests of the person who's instructed us. So if it's a farmer who has instructed me, I'm going to draft that contract in such a way that it is very favorable to the farmer. You know, he's the one instructing me. I have to take his interests totally at heart. If it is the off-taker or the buyer or a manufacturer who's buying from a farmer instructing me, I'm going to draft that contract differently. So, to Christine and Dr. Karaoke, how then can we have this contract structured to protect both interests of, the farmers and the buyers, to make it more balanced, so to speak? Sorry. Yeah, Christine, please start.
Um, so I think for me, the first point there is information, which has been reiterated in this conference over and over again, that the party on the other side, especially the farmers, will only be able to make an informed decision where they have information on whatever it is that they're producing, what is the market rate, how much is it being sold, who are the off-takers, can they be trusted, have they worked elsewhere, have they worked with other people. So there's a lady who was here and encouraged off-takers to really, aggregate farmers in the village and give them information. But apart from that, I think also the government has a role to play in terms of disseminating information to the farmers at the village level, so that, like from where I come from, it's a coffee planting village. So when we get extension services, when we get experts from the Ministry of Agriculture coming to educate the farmers, they pass the knowledge to the farmers such that when they need to enter into contracts, then they're entering from an informed position. The other issue is trust, just reiterating what had been said here before. And, it's to create trust with the people that you're contracting with. And really understanding the product, you have to be interested in the farmer more than in the produce. So it's an element of creating trust and, approaching the farmers as a group as opposed to each of the individual farmers, because there's comfort, at least in an African setting, there's comfort, in a group setup. But I think the other issue is, before you contract with the farmers, give them time so that there's something called undue influence in law, so that you are not forcing them to sign a contract now and the planting season starts tomorrow. So you approach them well early in advance, express your interest, and also encourage them as a group to find a lawyer who's different from your lawyer so that they can get independent, legal services. I think that's what I would say.
Thank you, Christine. Dr. Karaoke, and sorry, just before you answer, also, I'd like you to make a comment on, do farmers actually do engage lawyers? Because, Barron from South Africa seemed to suggest that farmers always get the short end of the stick. And they're kind of just, are forced into this unconscionable relationship that is very uncomfortable for them. So if they do not, or if they do, what constrains them? So I hope I don't confuse you. The first question is, how can contracts be structured to protect interests of both farmers and buyers?
Okay, I'll answer the first question. I would first say public policy is integral. I find that if you look at most of our instruments since, shall I say, the SRA, moving all the way through the ASDS and moving up now to AFA and what AFA became and what it hasn't become, you begin to ask questions about why the ATO failed. And you look at real policy and you begin to ask, if the policy doesn't come from the public sector and it's not essentially enforced, then I don't believe a contractor, or shall I say someone who's an off-taker, is going to say, what I'm going to do with this contract is that I'm going to make sure all the terms favor basically the farmer. It's just not going to happen. It has to come from a central repository that has got the authority to enforce it. And therefore, when it comes to this question, how can you protect both parties? I find that I don't think you'll typically hear that the gauntlet fell on basically the contractor who basically wanted to have a supply. I think the issue is you might find very quickly it would be the farmer who will say that this was unfair. And therefore, I think the key point is to say that farmers, because and I hope one day we organize better, it is for them to say that we demand better policies for ourselves. We demand essentially that these things be enshrined in some kind of law, be it, shall I say, at a national level, or maybe even just maybe it's communal, whatever that might be, it has to be in policy. If it doesn't happen, I think there's an issue. And how that happens is through public participation. It's in our constitution, it's enshrined, it's one of the key wonderful things that we do have. And yes, things happen, but I think it's also, once again, about actually activating those basically folks who are actually minded to say, I will be a mechanism, or I shall be, shall I say, a soundboard in which I can represent my people at that level. So I'd say that's what happens. And I think the key thing also here is extension services. Extension services are, if you go to any part of our country, unfortunately, you will hear it's now demand driven, and I don't understand what that means. But I understand what that means is that a lot of our extension officers are 50 and above, and we all ask the same question, who will take over? And why is it, if you look at history, if you look at the whole continent, extension it's clear. You don't transform an agricultural sector through with money or subsidies, because we know what happens to subsidies. It's called rent seeking. We all know it as Kenyans. But the reality is, if you have a way to educate farmers and it's effective, and people understand this seed will do this, and this is when you should plant, and also here are some legal services for these, since you're a group of farmers, you should actually consider contracting in a certain manner. Those are the things that actually transform agricultural sectors when I believe a country is interested in that transformation. So I'd say that is how to say, to make it fair, it's basically education, it's public participation, and it's actual change of public policy. The last question?
Yeah, do you feel that farmers engage lawyers?
Oh,
Are we really being unfair to farmers?
No, I think I also farm, and I can definitely say farmers are the smartest people when it comes to prices. They're business people. That's what farmers are. They are business people. And if there is a price point that makes sense, they'll engage a lawyer. If they hear or they get a shock that a lawyer might come at an hourly rate, like my sister here maybe, if you go to a law firm, you might say, oh, actually, it doesn't make sense. And then where is the lawyer? All the way in town. How am I going to get there? So the cost will always be the issue that's a hindrance. So once again, I say that unless the lawyers are closer, unless the legal services are closer, it won't work. You can say, don't get me wrong, if they are a cooperative and they have, shall I say, ways and means to actually do it, then it's fine. But if you're talking about a single entity farmer on 5 acres somewhere in the middle of a county, it's not going to work.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I'll just ask you one question, and then I'll just perhaps give our audience a chance to also ask questions. So what are some of the common legal disputes that arise in contract farming, and how can they be avoided? What are some of these disputes that, both parties encounter?
I think I'll mention three. And the first one really is non-performance of the contract by both parties or by either of the parties. And one of the ways of non-performance is what has been alluded to by many of the speakers, which is side selling by the farmers. And then when you go to court, the position that's taken by the courts is that, this was not a fair bargain on the part of the farmer. So they're being treated unfairly, even in circumstances when they're not being treated fairly. And because I'm a lawyer, I look at it from two perspectives. So one of the ways to address that issue, which is more of a legal, aspect as opposed to a practical point, which I'll address later, is that the contract itself should provide for consequences of breach. So in Kenya, typically for breach of contract, for you to be able to recover whatever it is that you've lost, you have to quantify the damages. So make it very clear in the contract that this is the amount of money, this is the amount of support I'm going to give you. This is the amount of expenses I'm going to incur if I have to procure this product from an alternative farmer. This is how much it's going to cost you. You also have to explain to the farmer that I am not only into this contract with you, there is also another contract I have entered into with the guys who are supposed to purchase the product from me. So if you breach this contract, I will also be in breach of the contract that I am in with the other counterparties. So you explain to them, this is the loss that I am going to incur. So you quantify that amount. The farmer, on the other hand, will also have to quantify the loss that they will suffer if the off-taker does not take whatever it is that they're producing. And I'll give an example. So one of the cases that was filed in court was a farmer in Western Kenya who was engaged by a miller to produce sugarcane. The sugarcane was ready. The miller did not offtake the sugarcane. There was, a dispute as to the provisions of the terms of the contract, with the offtaker arguing that the farmer was supposed to deliver the sugarcane when it was ready, and the farmer arguing that their only obligation was to notify the miller, who was then supposed to come and offtake the product. So the issue was who's really right between these two parties, and what will be the remedy that will be available to the party that the one that was not in breach. And the court held that, and sorry again for the off-takers, but the court found that, the contract as drafted provided that the farmer was only to inform the miller. It was the obligation of the miller to come and harvest the sugarcane when it was ready. And also that was supported by the legal provisions of the then Sugar Act, which has since been overhauled by the Crops Act. So it's just to agree. And then, so when the court found that, it had to quantify the damages. In determining the damages, they had to look at what was the term of the contract. It was 6 years. What was the quantity and how much was to be paid? So if it was not paid, how much did this farmer suffer, and did they mitigate the loss? So you quantify the damages and put them into the contract, so that when there's a dispute and you go to, let's say, a mediator or the court, it will not struggle in determining the loss that has been suffered in terms of monetary value. So that's one of the disputes that has arisen, and in my view, how it should be one of the ways it can be addressed in a contract. Now, from a practical issue, I think the main issue is that even if you put those, legal provisions in a contract, it is very likely that the farmer, when you go to enforce against the farmer, they don't have the financial muscle to actually make that payment to you. So you have a court judgment which you cannot essentially enforce, because either this party does not have the financial muscle, or they are willing to frustrate, they are willing to go to extremes to frustrate your efforts. So in my view, how to address this issue basically is what we've talked about, and what my co-panelist has mentioned, which is group engagements, so that apart from you have people on the ground who can actually exercise some sort of authority in relation to this farmer. They are in a group setup. This group has some rules and regulations that they can also, enforce in relation to this farmer. But also what has been mentioned before by the other panelists about, engaging the local administration, in terms of enforcing contracts, but most importantly, even the off-takers themselves, because I'm sure, like in our village, we are all coffee producers. So if you come to engage a farmer, most automatically you're aware that they have entered into a contract with another off-taker. So also on your part, I think there are ethical considerations that you should take into account before helping farmers breach contracts that they have entered into. I think I'll stop there because of time, and yeah.
I see we are being chased very quickly. Maybe just 1 or 2 words, Dr. Kariuki, and then you will allow us to take questions from the audience. Thank you.
Okay, I'll keep this very brief because, yes, my colleague Carrie, I think she basically talked about non-performance and basically an unenforceability of terms and how important aggregation is. So I'd say when it comes down to it, it's just basically the issue isn't so much the fact that the contracts don't work. The issue is the fact that the genesis of them and the parties coming to them in the way they come to the contract isn't actually currently formed in the right manner. So I'd say the best thing about something like this is to make sure you don't actually end up in a place where you're like, oh, we are in dispute, because dispute, I think, as most lawyers will tell you, you don't end up there because it probably doesn't get resolved. Since we don't have much time, I won't go into too much.
And sorry, just to chip in very quickly for purposes of our audience, that contract that you're entering into is your most important piece of evidence if your dispute ever ends up in court. So make sure it is very well drafted. Read through it very carefully, clause by clause. Don't just skim through. Ensure that all your interests are covered, because once if you're in court over a dispute, you cannot claim things that were not even covered in the contract in the first place. So participating in the drafting of that contract is very important right at the onset.
Thank you. Thank you. A round of applause to our panelists. We will take only 3 questions from the audience just because we're pressed on time. So if we can, any questions for our panelists? Amma, they were so thorough that all your questions were answered. Yes? No questions? Okay, we have a question here.
I'm a farmer, so I really don't know about law. But I'm wondering, for the interest of the farmer as well as the interest of the other party, is it possible in a contract to provide for circumstances where if the price is better in the market than what the buyer is willing to buy from me, I have a leeway to actually sell it to the best buyer available? And the other way around, is it possible if because of the market dynamics, I am the buyer and I'm not able, I don't have the market, or the market is not favorable, I can call the farmer and say, oh, I'm not able to take your crop now. I'm just wondering from a legal point of view, whether in a contract, these options can be provided, because from your discussion, it seems this is where the fight is. And if the contract is rigid, then you will have people trying to default or trying to either find a way of canceling the contract. So on both sides, depending on how the market dynamics are playing.
Faith, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, okay. So you see, the whole idea of contract, You see, the whole idea behind contract farming for both parties is certainty. So, the question of ask introduces an element of uncertainty where, if I'm an off-taker and you tell me, let's enter into a contract that says, once the produce is ready, whoever has the best price in the market takes the produce. I may have already invested and walked the journey with you. I've invested time, I've invested costs. I probably sent a staff member or 2 to come and assist you in the farm. I wouldn't want you to sell that product to somebody else. How do I recover my costs? So contracts really must be certain for both parties. You can't leave it open because, parties will just automatically breach the contracts. It just beats the whole purpose of entering into a contract in the first place. It's like introducing an element of anarchy where you can breach whenever you feel. The same applies to the buyer or the off-taker. He also wants certainty. So I cannot, for example, as a farmer, allow you to tell me that, when the produce is ready, I've entered into a contract with you. We've agreed perhaps on, the terms and the prices. And finally, my produce is ready. You tell me, oh, sorry, I'm not able to come and take your produce at this time. So again, I lose that element of certainty. So contracts have to be very certain. The court, in case of a dispute, has to be able to interpret the contract, be able to read what both parties wanted to enter into. It cannot be, so to speak, it cannot be amorphous. It cannot give options. It has to be very straightforward. I hope I've answered the question.
Yes, yes. Thank you. And thank you to the panel. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I'm sure there's a lot more to say, but we are constrained by time. But I think all of you have seen. Oh, go ahead.
So if you need anyone to draft contracts for you, Christine and I are available. You can come and speak to us after this.
I don't think I need to say anything beyond that. Look for them. Asanteni sana. This is something that we've talked about. Trends have shown that focus and interest in agriculture has been declining over time. Yeah. And particularly with young people, yeah, who are the majority by far of our population, right? Our challenge, therefore, is how do we make farming, how do we make agriculture, how do we make agribusiness attractive to our young people? They're our future. We need to invest in them. To discuss that, we have a panel dubbed Making Farming Cool. Okay. And this group of people will help unpack what's happening there and what can be done to get more youth involved, to get more youth engaged in agriculture. So I will introduce the panelists. The first panelist is Salimo Wakalimo. Come on up. My deski. Karibu sana. She is the co-founder, AMA, Agriculture Made Attractive. We also have George Ochuodo, Country Programs Manager, Farm Africa. Is he here? Karibu sana. We have Anne Masharia. Anne Masharia is Head of Training, Latia Agripreneurship Institute, Latia Agribusiness Solutions, Kenya. We have Charles Gitau. Charles Gitau is Country Director and Vice Chair, Pan-Africa Board, Africa Agribusiness Academy. Karibu sana. We have Dr. Nicholas K. Ropp, Dean, School of Agriculture and Biotechnology, University of Eldoret. Karibu sana mwalimu. And then after looking at the profile of the panel, I made a chini ya maji decision that surely the youth must be more than the non-youth, isn't it? So I have now added another youth to this panel. Let us call to the stage Susan Catherine, a farmer from Tanzuna Farms. Karibu. The way you're clapping, even you guys had seen there was an imbalance. This panel will be moderated by Dabal Ainea. Dabal, come on up.
Well, this is a personification of being cool. This is a cool moment, right? Because we want to make farming very cool. Clap for our panelists because we expect more from them. Now, I just also picked up something from Christine when she was saying, in case you need, contract drafting, we're here. And I said, okay, this is what we've been talking about, side selling. Yeah, she's been side selling now. Anyway, on a serious note now. The boy who harnessed the winds is the true story of William Kamkwamba, a young boy from Malawi. In the early 2000s, William faced severe drought and farming in his village, which was exacerbated by poverty. Unable to afford school fees, he was forced to drop out, but continued to teach himself from books in the local library. Inspired by a diagram in one of the books, William became determined to build a windmill to generate electricity and pump water for irrigation. Using scrap material like bicycles, parts, pieces of metal, and plastic, he successfully built a small windmill at the age of 14. His invention helped his family and village by providing power and water, and eventually his story gained international attention, leading to greater opportunities for him. William's innovation and perseverance earned him recognition. He later went on to study engineering. His story is one of resilience, resourcefulness, and transformative power of education. I watched this story from Netflix, and it really inspired me. And I went and bought the book, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. Meet him.
Does it feel, William? I never went to secondary school. Make us proud.
Hey, looking sharp, eh? You too, man.
Kachokolo is not the wealthiest school in the district, but it's down to each one of you to decide your own level of commitment.
The rains came late this year, and now the trees are gone. Malawi is preparing for a very long hungry season.
Tiene la cortita singonia kama ziko. Wakali mundu wa mkulo sobana William. Palime amene yanga titandize.
What are you going to do?
Anything new?
It's a pump.
Can you fix it?
Maybe. Mr. Kachibunda, when you turn the wheel on your bike, the light shines. How?
It's magnets.
I can bring water. I know how to do it.
We stay, we die.
No. With the electricity, we can plant in the dry season.
Antu wakufa akutiwa zimenezo.
Anasema, atarika niti. Zita kutaka. Ngoti Mungu aleta mtimsifu. Baba. Hili kuelewa.
That's a story. Yes, that's a story of William, such an inspiration to a village, just using the power of dynamo and how he was able to generate electricity and thereby irrigate a whole village. And this is the story. And we just want to hear from our panelists. I know some of them also, they're in that particular supply chain, not as innovators, but also people who are contributing exceedingly beneficially in terms of making young people realize also in innovation and how that can transform agriculture as well. Just looking at that particular story and acting as a segue to our conversation, I would just want us to begin briefly, very briefly, each of you, to just walk us through the journey of how you've managed to bring innovation, either through knowledge or the actual bit of innovation itself, in contributing, to making agriculture cool. William did it by using the dynamo of a bike to make and generate electricity, just as an idea. And we want to just also get your story. If you could just color the journey for us, from where you began, where you're here, and what's your story, and why is farming cool for you? We might begin with you, Suzanne. right, from Tanzania Farm. Yeah.
Thank you for the, sorry.
You can hear? Right.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Susan Catherine Bwari from Tanzuna Farms. Basically, what we do vegetable farming, the broccoli, cauliflower, Chinese cabbage. I got into this space because I love eating healthy, and I also wanted to be part of the people who are going to curb the food security in the country. And I'm still a youth, and I would really want to encourage other people to join in and farm, because the future of agriculture, the future of Africa, I'm sure, is in farming, a bigger percentage. And I also want to make it look cool, because we are youths, and most of us, we thought maybe farming is outdated. It should only be, done with old people, or maybe our parents. Mostly we saw our parents do farming, but most of them didn't make a living out of it. And the fact that I've decided to join the agriculture space is to tell other youths they can also try and make a living out of agriculture. You can be your own boss, you can make a business out of it, and it shouldn't be so hard to do it, because we also have technology that is coming up, and it's also making things easier than it was in the previous years. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Susan. Let's hear from Salimo as well. You can tell us the story. Are you making farming cool?
All right. Hello, everyone. You can hear me? All right. My name is Salimo Wakilimo, the voice of agriculture, the queen of Agritu, as they say. Call yourself so until people start calling you. Now, let me take you back to where I started. I was volunteering at Royal Media Services as a producer, a radio producer. And then an opportunity came, and there was an opportunity to do agricultural journalism. That is to produce a show and also to present a show called Gold Dust, if anybody ever listened to it. And then in the process, I did it for a paycheck, because remember, I had volunteered for a whole year without pay. So I was doing it for a paycheck for exactly 6 months. On the 6th month, I realized, wait, every time I've gone visiting the farms, I've only met, out of the 20 farmers I've interviewed, only 2 or 3 were young people. And I got a holy anger on why is it that young people are not in the agricultural sector. And I decided, you know what, I want to make agriculture attractive. And from there, I started telling the stories of agriculture with an aim of helping young people join the agricultural sector. It might have not been a good thing, especially, let's say we have gone to visit a farmer who is not doing so well, but I will tell the story from a perspective of, I'll tell the story from a perspective of, so that a young person can be able to come in and bring the solution. In the process, I was able to guide young people on how to make agriculture a good thing for you as an individual. So later on, I did that from 2020 until this year, March, when I resigned from Royal Media Services. I was doing a number of things now. I developed a number of things from radio show, that is the Gold Dust. Then I used to do every Monday, Gold Dust AgriSpace, a weekly show on Twitter, on X. And then I later proceeded to doing I produced the Kenya's Gold. You guys know the Kenya's Gold. I produced the Kenya's Gold, and then I started doing articles on Citizen Digital. So realizing how much I had to offer, but then I realized that there was a bit of constraint in terms of you're a producer, at the same time you're a presenter. So I was not able to focus on agriculture. So I resigned and started Agriculture Made Attractive, that is AMA. Agriculture Made Attractive is a platform that does agricultural tours. So I realized many young people want to join agriculture, but they do not have an opportunity on where. I am happy about the Gen Z who actually want to do this, or I don't know if I'm a Gen Z or millennial, but I think I'm in between. We don't want to join agriculture just like that. just because we have a farm. We want to join agriculture after learning a few things. These people have done this and this. So what happens is now I'm giving people opportunity. Let's go to the farm. Let's learn from a few people who have been able to do it before. So I'm giving people agricultural tours. That also makes you as a farmer start having your farm, setting up your farm like an agricultural tourism farm. So that makes it easier for me that now people around your farm will start realizing that agriculture is cool. So I don't have to always have so many people. I don't have to do the job myself.
Thank you.
All right. So that is one of the things. And then
Thank you,
everything
Salimo.
else I used to do that. AMA is also going to proceed on that.
All right. Yeah, we'll come back to you. I know there's a lot of information that we can actually glean from you. But let me just also introduce George Ochodo. Maybe also you can tell us from your own perspective, are you making farming cool? Take it away.
Thank you so much. I work with Farm Africa, which is an organization, an international NGO working across Eastern Africa, with the vision of ensuring that the rural ensuring that the rural Africa communities are resilient and they come from we do farming in a sustainable way and at the same time protect the environment. So in the organization where I'm working, we promote sustainable agricultural practices and enhance farmers to grow more and sell for more. So we support them to get market for their produce. And also we ensure that we protect the environment. So we implement projects that enhance environmental protection. But we also ensure that we encourage the youth to venture into agriculture through the climate smart agricultural technologies that we are promoting, hence making farming very easy for them and palatable for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's hear from Anne Macharia, right up your alley as well. It could be more connected to what George is doing as well in terms of capacity building, more on training. You can tell us more briefly.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Anne Macharia. I work for Latia as the head of training. Our main role or how we are participating in the industry is training both the farmers and the youths. And also being a youth, I would also emphasize more on the youths. The fact remains that most of the youths are interested in agriculture. And it is based on the fact that they are able to see the profit. So what I would say is that we need to show that agriculture is profitable. And the essence of it is that once you show the youth that agriculture is profitable, they'll get attracted to it by the virtue that they're going to make money. And the bit of it is that as a training institution, our main focus is building the capacity. And if you're building the capacity, we need to show that the youths, it's not just about the technical bit of growing the crops, managing the crop, but there's also the bit of having the soft skills that enables you to be able to relate well with your customers, your farmers, and everyone you're working with in the industry. So it's more of a holistic approach. And in that case, we're using modern technologies such as the greenhouse and also hydroponic that makes it more attractive to the youth because they don't want to get that. But when you're using things that are more attractive to them, like what was mentioned yesterday about the drones, this makes it more attractive to them and they're willing to participate. Thank you.
All right, so it's a meshing of technology and farming that is making it a bit more appealing to the young people. And I think that will also demystify the notion that has been there, preconceived ideas that we grew up with, of which we'll share momentarily. But let me just pick up on Charles Gitau to tell us more, of course, what is your part in making farming cool? Is it also right up in the lane of what Anne Macharia is telling us? Because also it's in the face of academia. Just long press it. I think you've switched off. Long press it. Long press it. Long press your mic.
I can use this to share this. Yes, my name is Charles Gitau. Charles Gitau, and I'm one of the founder members of Africa Business Academy, which was started in 2013 by a group of 11 entrepreneurs from Africa and 6 others from Wageningen University who are alumni. And Agribusiness Academy is to stimulate entrepreneurship in Africa. And our model of approach is a bit different. When I looked at the title of the discussion, it said making farming cool. And I think, in my view, it is making agriculture cool. So our approach is that we have investors who have done it in agribusiness. We mainly deal with SMEs, small and micro enterprises engaged in agribusiness, agri-food industry, and not directly with farmers. So what we do is that through our membership, we use them as coaches and mentors, mainly for the youth entrepreneurs. Once we realize the idea in the youth, then we look at suitable mentors and coaches who take them through the various aspects of entrepreneurship in that particular field. We approach these three through two processes. One is what we call through business clubs. These business clubs are mainly meant to cover the business aspects, entrepreneurial aspects that are common in all other businesses. There are those practices that are required to be applied in all businesses to make them successful. The other approach is through what we call the sector desks. The sector desk is where we have specific people or specific young people who are in particular field of the value chain, and we link those now to real entrepreneurs in that value chain. So our approach is that we identify coaches who will share failure and success factors with these young entrepreneurs, and therefore they gain practical knowledge within a very short while. That is our approach, and let me just mention we are in 6 countries. We are in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Malawi, and Ethiopia. So when it comes to business clubs, it is like country bound because we also go through laws and regulations that govern the business in those particular countries or in that particular country. But when it comes to sector desk, we are more wider, we are borderless because we can link a dairy entrepreneur in Kenya with an upcoming youth entrepreneur from Ethiopia, and vice versa. If a hides and skins person wants to go and learn about Ethiopia hides and skin industry, we link them up.
Thank you.
So it is boundarless.
Thank you, Charles. Right, we'll get more from you in the course of the conversation. Let me just also pick up the brains of Dr. Nicholas Rob. We know how key it is for the academia in terms of preparing curricula as well. But mostly recently we've seen a lot of universities are not really going in line with their core curricula, right? We can talk of Egerton, we can talk of Jomo Kenyatta. So people are really diversifying in terms of trying to, of course, make that killing, make that particular shilling, and we're losing that particular sheen on agriculture. I don't know what is really right up the collective sleeves of University of Eldoret. You can give us a sneak peek.
Okay, good.
Long press it.
Good evening.
It's okay.
Is it okay?
Long press it. Is it great?
Okay, good evening.
Yeah. That's the Kenyan way of checking your mic, huh?
Okay, thank you.
Like pasta.
Let me first of all thank the organizers for the invite. I have benefited a lot networking and also learning about this important conference. So my name is Nicholas Rowe, University of Eldoret, Dean, School of Agriculture and Biotechnology. Since yesterday up to now, we have heard a lot about contract farming and the opportunities there are in agriculture, We know that GDP of most nations depend on agriculture, Kenya included. So it is a very important sector. And as said, in Kenya, we have several universities offering agricultural curriculum. And yet, you heard that the main challenges we have in our nation is on food and nutrition security. And you wonder why, and yet we produce graduates in this field. So I will add also with this main challenge that has been there and it continues to be a problem, food and nutrition security. There is also another big problem, unemployment of our youth. Universities exist to solve societal dynamic challenges in all aspects of life. And in this regard, in agriculture, we produce graduates that are not taken up in the industry. And the main challenge or a problem is the mismatch of the skills of our graduates. And so there is need to relook at the curriculum design. We are saying education for self-employment and also creating employment for others. Someone said that agriculture is seen as the future, that the future billionaires will come actually from the agriculture sector. We know that about 50% of jobs have been transformed by technology, but going forward in the near future, about 85% of 1 million jobs will be created, and agriculture has the highest score. So in universities, we want to prepare to inspire our youth to take agriculture as a profession for the future.
You want to prepare, or it's already on course. Are we talking about preparation at this point?
It is on course.
It's on course. Thank you.
What we do is that we regularly review our curriculum in line with the challenges that farmers are facing. As I said, we have huge unemployment for our youth because of mismatch of the skills. So what we are doing currently is to include entrepreneurship skills, because we are talking about business, creating business. So we include in all our programs in universities. We foster also partnership and collaboration, internship, experiential learning, where we attach our students to the communities, farming communities, to identify challenges and come up with some technological innovation.
Thank you.
That will solve.
Thank you.
Those.
We'll explore more. We'll explore more because we're also pinched for time. We need also to get other sentiments from our panelists. Let me come back to Susan, and maybe you can share also what has been the high spot that has driven the success of Tanzania when it comes to innovative ways of doing agriculture. You can maybe just highlight some of your successes briefly.
Oh, okay. For me, so far, I've managed to grow vegetables till now, and the successes so far that I've seen, they're more of personal success, whereby I'm able to provide good food to the people. That is not okay, because I have already learned have the knowledge about the pesticides, what to use and not to use. And also I've learned about what period should I use the pesticides or the fertilizers. So I make sure whenever I'm taking the products to the market, they are ready for consumption and they are healthy. Yes. So that is the gap I noticed. Most people would, most farmers would just, spray maybe fertilizers and pesticides to the plants. Most of them don't care. They just care about the outcome. If the plant looks good, that's it. But most of these products are not good for consumption because of the chemicals that are still active. So what I do, I make sure the plants, maybe if it's to spray the plants, we do it at the right time so that
All right.
the produces will be good for consumption.
But let's focus now on you and the experience as a youthful face in agribusiness as it is right now. What is the perception of the young people around you when you tell them, hey, so they ask you, oh, what do you do? I'm a farmer. Do you get the all shop-on reaction, a farmer? It is related to with all contorted faces. It is not really for you to do. It's not really a cool thing. How then do you convince the Gen Zs that farming is cool?
Okay, first of
You can give us the experience. That's what I want to know.
First of all, when I tell someone I'm a farmer, they don't believe it. They don't believe it, and they think that it's something that is very, not doable. And first of all, they think it doesn't have money, like you suffer for the rest of your life if you're doing farming. And what I do, one of the ways I've managed to convince some of my peers to do farming is through, this young generation. Most of us, we love being our own bosses. That's why compared to the previous years, we have more businesses coming up right now by young people. So something about farming, I just tell you, if you want to be your own boss, you can start a farm, do your own products and, do the marketing and, you can call yourself a young CEO. So most of them have bought to the idea, but most of them really want to know where is the money.
We want quick money.
Yes.
Where is the patience? You can't be amazingly patient to wait for our whole 6 months, to harvest. They want quick money.
Yeah, but okay, in farming, yes, it needs patience, persistence, and hard work. But at the end of the day, I try and make them feel like when you put in hard work and you become patient, at the end, you're going to get something out of it.
Thank you. So there's a misconception still that is still hanging there that there's no money in agribusiness. You have to be patient. But this is all predicated on good communication. And this is where you, Salimo Akilimo, really come in. Because I think we in that particular space altogether, how we package our communication also really matters. And you're using all these strategies. You can actually share giving us experiences that you've had from radio, TV as well with Kenya Gold Dust. I think that is such a seminal work that you're doing in terms of dispelling misinformation that is there regarding agribusiness, especially for the young people. Yeah. So how have you used this tools effectively to spur interest among the young people? And what is the reaction when you read the comments?
I think that has been achieved in different ways. One, showing up on social media as a farmer and in the agriculture. Let me tell you many times, and let me ask this question. How many of us here are farmers and they actually post a photo when they're in their farm? Hands up. Wow, I love that. But only 20% of the audience.
You should have started by asking how many do they have social media accounts, first of all, so that we know where they post.
Right? So it's one thing to be a farmer. It's another thing to be proud of you being a farmer. Number two, farming is not the only thing that happens in the agricultural sector. The agricultural sector has so many things. So you don't have to feel like I only need to be a farmer. So this is what I have come to realize. Young people thought that when people say agriculture, they think it's farming. No, farming is only a part, a value chain of the agricultural sector. You have a whole value chain right there. Even a consumer is a part of the value chain, who is actually our most important person when it comes to the agricultural sector. Now, when it comes to the communication around it and how I have been able to achieve that is telling the stories of farmers authentically. All right. I have a website called amaafrica.co.ke, amaafrica.co.ke. We have a place where we have a farm's profile and a farmer's profile. Let me tell you the biggest challenge. That's why I asked that question. The number of times I have tried to ask farmers, let me come to your farm, let me tell your story. And they refuse. No, 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 I don't want to be known as a farmer, bro. So what else are you doing? You know, it's a question that you need to put yourself. Because let me tell you, we saw our parents' farm, 20 acres, 200 acres, right? Now, that they were only farming because they wanted us to learn. Now we are done with school. They have, wamebaki wangapi? Wawili. Babako na mamako, right? What are they doing? They have now reduced the production. They are now not farming 20 acres, they are now farming 2 acres. That is what enough for them. Now production becomes reduced when it comes to food security. The only way we are going to achieve food security is you as a farmer. It's okay. You're 35, you're 40, you are told go to the farm by your parents because you're waiting for you to uenda shule. That's okay. Don't worry. But now accept that at 22 you are waiting to go to school or you're waiting to do something else. It didn't happen. Now accept you're 35 and that is the only way you're making money. Be proud of it. Start posting about it. Start telling people about it. Let us tell your story. Tell it as it is. That is the only way we are going to make agriculture cool for other people.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So, Jody, still, when you're talking about barrier to entry, it's not just actually finances, also misconception, because now they can't enter into this field because of what we are learning. That still we're in that archaic epoch of time where it is dirty work. It is not associated with success. But you can tell us how also is Farm Africa trying to dispel all these notions, aside from maybe the finances bit of it, so that if we get the right knowledge and perception, then accessing finance will not be a problem.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So
This is for George.
sorry.
In that sector also you have finances as well. It's good. Yeah. People will know that you have finances, you can dispel as well. Yeah, let's say from George.
Yeah, it's okay. Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Just to answer that question, first of all, I want to ask you a question, but you don't have to answer me. How many of you would be happy when your A students come to you and tell you that, Daddy or Mommy, I want to be an agriculturalist or I want to be a farmer? I know what your answer will be. So the first thing that we have to do is to change our mindset.
Right from home.
From home,
Yes.
within the country, and the farmers that we are working with. And that is one of the greatest things that Farm Africa is doing, to change the mindset of the communities that we are working with, so that they can embrace farming and ensure that they do farming as a business. So we do that, and we also encourage the youth to do that. And as we have said here, the youth will only accept, because they see farming as something dirty. It's a punishment that started with the parents. When your child has done something wrong, you send him or her to the farm
As a punishment.
It's punishment. So children have grown knowing very well that farming is associated with punishment. You go to the bank, you have a business plan, you want a loan. The bank will tell you this is a high risk investment. So every stage is a discouragement to somebody who wants to venture into farming. And that's why youth really they shy away from farming. So as Farm Africa, we start from changing the mindset so that people have a positive attitude towards farming. Then now after that, we do a lot of mentorship, a lot of capacity building, a lot of training to ensure that, and we share success stories. We take them to to people, to exchange visits. They see people have done it, have generated income out of it. And then out of that, they start believing that they can also do. We have several programs that agricultural programs that we are implementing. One of them is an aquaculture program, Youth in Sustainable Aquaculture, where we are encouraging, we are working towards creation of 150,000 dignified and fulfilling jobs for young people. Because people say agriculture can give you a job, but are those jobs dignified and fulfilling? So we ensure that. We also have projects that we work with export local vegetables and export market vegetables, and we link farmers and we encourage the youth to participate. We link them to export companies. They're able to get into contract farming.
Thank you.
They're able to venture in,
Thank you.
get income out of that.
Right, thank you. So, as you can hear, and there is trauma, right from our childhood. We've been traumatized with agriculture. That's why sometimes you were not really taking it, or it's not really up for grabs at the first port of call as your first choice of a career. But even just being in this forum, we've heard from business people who are very successful, and this should be a source of inspiration. And you can hear mentorship. How then do you deal in terms of your training? First of all, from the trauma of events psychologically, because I think these paradigms that we're talking about, that's psychological at the end of the day. How then do you approach it from perspective? Just briefly.
Thank you so much. So from our case, once we have enrolled the
Okay, let's just speak to your mic so that we can hear you.
Thank you. Once we have enrolled the students, we take them through the opportunities that are available in agriculture. Because most of the cases when you define agriculture, people tend to think it's just about farming, the basic crop production. But there's so many opportunities available across the value chains. Think about it. Starting from the input suppliers, value addition, service providers, something that is coming up very well. Because most of the youth do not own farms. That's the reality of the matter. But we have people who have farms who are ready to lease the farm. And we also have people who are ready to venture as incubation centers where youth can go and practice. So the first thing first, to remove the negative mindset that they have about farming is a dirty job, it was used as a punishment, this is not what I want to do. We help them identify opportunities that are there and they're able to develop passion. But we also have the challenges of where we have a youth who came to training because a parent told him or her, I want you to do agriculture, and that is not working. The point is, even as the parents encourage their daughters and sons to do agriculture, show them the opportunities that are available so that even as they come to do the training, they're already aware that I can venture in agriculture, I can make money in agriculture. This is something that I can do and excel. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Charles, you talked about business clubs and also secret desk. Did you call it secret desk? If I missed it? Yeah, there's a desk that actually you are hoping or actually use it as a platform for interlinkages, trying to interlink people, what opportunities are there. Could you tell us what is some of the seminal, innovative agribusiness models that you've come up with, aside from this two? And how has that also dramatically changed the sphere of training in agribusiness?
Okay.
Very briefly.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think my colleagues here have pointed out that agriculture is quite broad. And what we have done is to try and do the same thing some of these colleagues are doing by trying to identify and spot opportunities for the youth in agriculture. For instance, when you're talking about dairy, yeah, there are many problems in dairy, and what we say is that once you start solving problems that the agriculture sector is facing, then money comes naturally. For instance, if, the dairy farmer requires something like laboratory services, why can't the youth get into portable laboratory services so that once you take your milk to a dairy processor, you already know the quality of your milk? Okay? There are so many other services. The other week, we were in Western and Nyanza, we were talking to agri-dealers in Western Kenya, including Nyanza. And what we encourage them is to add value to the services they're giving, or even for these agro-input suppliers, there are technologies that are easy to adopt. For instance, you can add, information what you're giving, application rate. You can actually do it for them, and then you add value to the product or service that you're offering. Finally, we look at the business models. When you talk about inclusivity, for instance, when you talk about access to finance, if you talk to the youth, the first thing they talk about is that how can I start a business without capital? How can I start a business without, investment, a partner, and so forth? But when we say start with what you have, what you have may be your brain, the technology that you have. What you have might be your phone, your cell phone. So when it comes to business model, look at what you really desire. If you are supporting agroecology, for instance, in a youth project or in a youth business, then take that business model to actually focus on the niche market of agroecologically produced products from the farming communities. And that is how you transform your business model.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the business model is key to what we do with the youth.
Right. Let me just close up this particular session, then we open the floor to plenary to ask more questions. And Dr. Kiprop, I would love to know, Dr. Rob, in terms of research, because I think this is also why we have universities. That has not been really forthcoming in terms of having innovative research that can inspire, that we know has come from many of our universities lately in terms of technology. You maybe just share a little bit on how that also has been a disadvantage in trying to make agriculture look more appealing. Because if we were showcasing young people who've come up with very novel ideas, this would be an eye-opener to the rest of the young people. But from the universities, they've been decrying, we don't have funds or for research, but we've seen the government has dedicated some funds for research as well. But why is it so slow on the uptick? Very briefly.
I think just as we all know that the importance of agriculture, there is a mindset right from the parents as because of challenges that we see. Is agriculture a business? Is it giving you an income to meet your needs? We have a challenge which we are addressing in academia. We say that there is mismatch of skills. There are policies that are not right. Because we have our graduates who go out and excel in farming or in agribusiness. And yet here, they don't see those opportunities. And we know that Kenya is an agricultural country. Our economy is based on agriculture. And we heard that the land that we have for agriculture, most of it, about 80% is arid, not arable. 20%, about 60% is not put in agricultural use, is idle land owned by government and individual. And so agriculture, although we have all the resources, the know-how and land, we are almost becoming net importers of even basic products like cooking oil. So there is the time for bold action, as we said. Sometimes we say deliberate and intentional action to inform our youth. The young population, which is high, is a ticking time bomb If nothing is done, there will be problems in the country. And so in the institution of higher learning, we approach these challenges. There are opportunities. We want to review our curriculum to instill some entrepreneurship skills. Current employers are increasingly seeking for individuals with adaptability, critical thinking, creativity,
Thank you.
and entrepreneurship skills.
Right.
And these individuals, we do not prepare them well. And there is need to design our curriculum
Right.
to embrace those skills so that we produce
Okay.
people who are able to create employment and even employ others in the agriculture sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nicholas Reb. And we want just to open questions from the plenary. Briefly, kindly make your question very brief. Brevity is of essence. We've heard from our panelists, and I know there are other areas we've not really tackled because of interest of time. So let me just see your hand. Shoot up your hand. Just one question from one person, not one person with 4 questions. Just one. Don't ask questions for every panelist. Take one.
Thank you. My name is Larry Mwendwa. I work for World Vision. I support
Larry Mwendwa.
Larry. Yes.
Thank you.
Larry Mado. It's not for World Vision, but in market system development. But for this case, I'll talk as a youth. Now that the topic is on the youth, and I'll talk to the academia, Daktari. I went to Israel to study postgraduate agriculture, and we were studying in class once per week, and the other 6 days we were in the field. That means I have more experience on hands-on. I just come to complement it with just the classwork. But that made me to just look at. I studied BSc in JKUAT, one of the best, and comparing the curriculum for agriculture and what the other developed countries do. They give more experience on hands-on. But looking at our curriculum, I just felt that if I was given a chance to be the Minister of Agriculture, I'll scrap off the whole curriculum and draw a new curriculum for agriculture to include more practical sense to agriculture and also modernize the syllabus for agriculture. So it's something that you can consider doing, starting the university program so that you can attract youth to join agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you. Still, Dr. Kura, what is any of you that are in academic can answer that? Finally, the sound guys, if the monitor here, we can't hear anything. So we're straining, we are listening from the sound speak. Yes. Only boost the monitor. Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Yeah, my name is Collins Esiraba. I also work with World Vision. I have a question for my brother George Otuodo. I'm aware Farm Africa is working with some producers in the blue economy around the country. I wanted to know what initiatives are you making to ensure that they adopt contract farming so that they are able to link with the market through this system of contract farming. For a very long time, the producers or the farmers or the people who are involved in the blue economy around the country have always been exploited, so to say. So what is the initiative that you are carrying out to ensure that this contract farming is adopted in those economies?
Thank you. Another question?
Thank you so much.
We want to hear from government as well.
My name is Vincent Ochieng.
Kindly, if you are, please stand up so we can see you.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Vincent Ochieng from the University of Nairobi. My question goes to my fellow Gen Z. Hi. Okay, I'm asking. I'm interested in the mechanization part. So I'm asking, which farm mechanization method have you applied in your farm to attract me as a youth so that I can work in your farm, especially in operating machines. Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
I think you have done a bit of work in making farming cool. But where we have not done very well is in rebranding farming to make it cool through the media and the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
We only promote foreign performers. Why can't we have reality shows on farming with an eye on the youth? Why can't we have or use pop culture to influence farming to be cool? This is for you, Ainea, and your co. Thank you.
Well, we have my colleague here from Royal Media as well. Or from Royal Media. Yeah, it's a good challenge. Let's take the last one.
I have the mic.
Okay, she has the mic.
So,
She'll give an award for asking questions in this conference.
I'll receive them. So I just wanted to say some of the opportunities for the youth. As we had here, we lose 40% of our production to post-harvest losses. So the biggest opportunity I would say is dealing with post-harvest losses, because you've already produced 40% and then you lose it. And allow me to say one of the areas, like potatoes. We know at harvest, a bag of potatoes could go for 2,000 shillings. Within a few months, it's selling at 4,000. And so we need investors in cold storage for potatoes. And you'd make that 2,000 shillings per bag within a few months. And the same goes for maize. And as for tomatoes, we know the university has developed solar cold storage. You go to a rural place, you hire a shop, put solar, and you can store crates, charge per crate to the farmers who harvest, and sometimes the brokers don't come to pick. Allow me to the youth who talked about machinery. One of the big areas, we lose livestock every year when there is a drought. We are losing livestock in millions. Feed conservation, hay production is very easy. You broadcast the pasture seed and you come in and tell. So for the youth who don't want to take a panga or djembe, that is very easy to do.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. Thank you. Let me start with from yeah, thank you. I know many questions. Can we go to the last one?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for giving me the
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Up. This place was
I think mine was first.
Okay, move on.
Yeah, I am Dr. Isaac Malonza. When I'm not farming, I'm actually a medical doctor. And I wanted to disagree with the notion being advanced here that the youth are not engaged in farming. Because when I look around all the farms, the people I see working there are the youth, are the young people. In my farm, I have more than 10 people, and they're all young people. They run my farm. All the people, when I want watu wa kibarua, they are the young people who come. So unless we are talking about those who own, the older people like me who may be owning a farm, but the people who are actually doing the work. When you go to Naivasha, those flower farms, it's young people. So what are we actually saying? So I actually am standing here to disagree with this panel, that the young people are actually engaged in farming. So unless you have data to prove otherwise, I don't agree. Thank you.
Yeah. I used to resonate with a lot because I know a lot of them also they're hiring farms in Kajiado as well and farming tomatoes as well. Briefly.
Yeah, my name is Kennedy Wanyonyi from University of Eastern Africa, Baraton. First, I will say these ideas that are being floated here come to Baraton. We do hands-on. I know we are known for nursing. I think some people talked about it. But you come, we have other fields, other areas, and I wish this conference was held in Baraton. It could have helped more in the Rift Valley
That's not the biggest point, but you are welcome. I'm looking at this situation. Everybody is testifying of farming. In this country, the question is, if everybody is gardening, why are people dying of hunger? What is lacking? This question is always ringing in my mind, even when I'm teaching. It has to be answered. Now, on the research, from these organizations that have been floated here, many of them seems to be entrepreneurs, regional agriculturists. I'm trying to understand, there are very few, but many are entrepreneur. So we are promoting entrepreneur more than the hands-on person kwa ground. Ile kazi mnasema at youth wako hapo, these guys are manual worker. That is wrong. Can I be professional, respected like a doctor in your field? That's the thing.
All right.
I teach these young people and they fail. That's your mkono yao. And how much you know them versus what you are paid as a doctor.
Yeah.
Right.
That equity is missing in agriculture. And finally, the link between, sorry.
Yeah, let me not take the final bit. I think you've said enough so that we can get
the link between institution of higher learning on the research with these organizations. Is there such opportunities so that we can link up?
The challenges, yes. Maybe this is also goes to Anne and Charles when it comes to research, academia, the questions that have been raised. Should we pick up on that to respond, especially on curriculum that is raised on by Larry, that is saying it is not really up to scratch. It's a challenge to the academia. We want to respond to that very briefly. Anne, Charles, and Dr. Rep. Very briefly. Let's begin with you, Dr. Rep.
Okay, thank you.
Very briefly.
Okay, let me respond to employment of our youth. I want to echo what my colleague from University of Eastern Africa. You know, when we talk of youth, why they don't want to be engaged in agriculture, if one has gone to university as a degree, is not interested in manual jobs can be done by anybody else. They need a dignified, fulfilling jobs.
Yes.
And we need to prepare them for such opportunities, to create them jobs for themselves and even for others. So our curriculum is actually addressing issues like experiential learning, entrepreneurship, internship to some industries, and partnership, because that's where these our graduates are actually going to be employed. They do research they are doing research or solving problems for the industry. So they have to be market driven, market demand, so that they can be able to, if they are not employed, they can be able to create jobs themselves and for others. Thank you.
Right. Chelsea, you want to respond to also the mismatch that we do have, because we know they've been talking about mismatch skills from 2018, looking at the Federation of Kenya Employers as well, that there's a cost of retraining. Even if we have the graduates, they are half-booked. Briefly, in response to what was being raised by Larry. Charles, or
okay.
Yeah, briefly.
First, I approve of what Madam has said about the opportunities, the problems in, for instance, cold storage, and those are areas that are opportunities for our youth. The other thing about Daktari, I think for us, we promote entrepreneurship, not employment. So whereas it's true that agriculture creates employment, we want real investors to be the youth in that employment field rather than being employees. Perhaps what I would just add is that there is, for now, a bit of disconnect between
the university and the entrepreneurs that are coming out of the universities. Because if you look at the database that we have, most of the people who've actually done agriculture are not engaged in agriculture, but other people who have found opportunities in it and ventured into it. So
Thank you.
it must be something that must be done to encourage those who are finishing the universities and they're not actually ready
Right.
to engage in self-employment.
Thank you. George, there was a question for you. If you may just answer very briefly.
Yeah, to answer my colleague from World Vision, the answer is yes. We are the farmers we are working with are adopting contract farming. And how are we doing it? We are engaging. We are engaging before we engage in farming. We look for the market. For example, the export vegetables that we are doing in Trans Nzoia and Elgeyo Marakwet. We went and we contract. We are working with the export companies who gave us the standards that our farmers must meet, the good agricultural practices that we are working. We came and we are working with our farmers to address now the contracts they gave. They gave the contract because we are meeting all the requirements of the market. So that one I can confirm that is going on in the aquaculture program. We are also started from the market side. We identified we have identified several off-takers.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I know we can go on and you can see Nemo is here. Thank for time. I know Salimo, you wanted to also to respond. The same to Susan as well. You Gen Z faces. I think you can do the networking with University of Nairobi so that the mechanization can be answered. He is interested to know. And also Salimo on the issue of maybe and how we're trying to popularize and making farming cool in pop culture, then how do we do that? So that can be answered as well. But let me just hand over to the moderator, right? Because she's here and I'm getting a bit antsy as well. Thank you so very much for our panelists.
For a very dynamic and engaging panel. Thank you. Thank you. I know that there was a lot more to be said, but you'll forgive us kindly. We are falling behind. Thank you for your contribution. You can now leave the stage. Thank you for your contribution, for your engagement.
The future is bright. So let's wear the sunglasses as well for the young guys and the cool farming as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tebal. Yes, I know that we are now coming down to the final stretch. Forgive us if we have gone a little bit over, but you know, when you're engaged, you've got to keep things going, eh? Not to defend Dr. Malonza, but why did you people assume the people he has employed are menial? Maybe they are agronomists and other professionals. We won't go into that, but yes. But I'm not on his payroll. Eh? Anyway, as we come to a close of what has been a very engaging first conference on contract farming, I want to thank you all for your participation, for your engagement, for your ideas, for your knowledge, for your opinions, both supporting and contrary. All of them are important for dialogue. It's been definitely 2 days well spent. Here is a recap of the conference. Contract farming is alive and growing in Kenya and across Africa. This conference was intended to discuss solutions to the challenges that Kenyan and African farmers face in a country and continent where agriculture is often a large percentage of the economy. As we heard, agriculture contributes 26% of the Kenyan GDP, yet employs over 40% of the workforce. Now, it's hard to summarize the rich discussions and exchanges from the conference, but here are some highlights. Contract farming has the potential to improve not only agricultural output in Africa, but also feeding the rest of the world. It also provides a framework of certainty and sustainability across various value chains, including vegetables, cereals, poultry, dairy, export commodities such as tea and coffee, and so on. The practice is established in several value chains. For example, in Kenya's dairy industry, as we heard yesterday, contract farmers have increased profits by 25% and created jobs. It expands and provides market access and export growth, contributing greatly to international trade and foreign direct investment flows into the country. However, there are exploitative practices that are still rampant, and contracts are mostly skewed towards buyers. Large companies have several advantages over farmers due to economies of scale, and farmers also not quite knowing their legal rights. There is a need, and our last one of our previous panels talked to it, there's a need for efficiency, fairness, and reliability in the contracts. Now, there are cross-cutting challenges surrounding contract farming: price volatility, limited financial and insurance access, logistical challenges, post-harvest losses, knowledge gaps among farmers on the right fertilizers, on the right pesticides, the soil quality, the methods of harvesting, lack of mastery of modern techniques, contract risks, and lack of transparency. And so there's a need for various stakeholders, and there's a role that each of these stakeholders play. The role of government, support and enforcing legal frameworks that ensure efficiency and fairness. Improve agricultural data to support contract farming. Improve infrastructure. Strengthen multi-agency coordination to support contract farming. And also, county governments should move fast in supporting value chain inefficiencies, to remove value chain inefficiencies and improve stakeholder coordination. The role of financial and insurance institutions: banks must be sensitive to farmers and enhance farming insurance, especially production risks. They should also broaden financing solutions to cover aggregators. Recommendations for farmers: remember that contract farming is a business and contracts must be enforced. Diversify produce to take advantage of the cycles in the different value chains. Join intermediary associations and cooperatives to increase your bargaining power with off-takers and buyers, and to lobby effectively with the government. We talked about this yesterday. You're stronger when you're in groups. Adopt modern farming techniques and climate-smart techniques such as irrigation, precision farming, drone technology, we talked about that yesterday, digital platforms, etc. The fact of the matter is 65% of arable land is in Africa, and young people should take up the challenge. The role of other intermediaries: increase capacity building, information sharing for farmers, for aggregators, for export marketers, strengthen lobbying, strengthen enforcement of contracts. It always comes back to contracts, right? And bargaining power for both producers and buyers for mutual benefit. There are new opportunities that came up in this conversations, new technologies that are driving smart farming. New international economic partnerships are emerging in the export market. For example, the European Union partnership agreements with Kenya. Emerging government policies that encourage PPPs. So there's a lot that is happening in this space. We are excited. We are encouraging folks to get engaged and get involved so that there's action coming out of this conference. In conclusion, we need strong partnerships among stakeholders to make contract farming work and push Africa's agriculture revolution forward. At this time, I will invite our conference director, the person who started this all and has brought us around the table, Peris Wanjiko. Karibu sana.
Good evening. Who feels like we needed another day? Oh, almost all of us. Thank you. I have two questions for you. I would like to know whether the conference was valuable to you by a show of hands. Oh, great. Thank you. How likely are you to attend this conference again if we do it next year? Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm here to thank everyone who is here. We are grateful. It was our first inaugural conference, so we were not sure how it was gonna go, but we are encouraged and we thank God and we thank you so much for being here today. Let me just go through the different people that we want to thank one by one. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of this remarkable international conference on contract farming 2024, I would like to take a moment to express our deepest gratitude to each and every one of you who contributed to making this event a resounding success. First and foremost, I extend my sincere thanks to our partners and stakeholders who have supported us every step of the way. The knowledge you've shared in fostering collaboration to advance sustainable and inclusive contract farming practices is truly, truly, truly inspiring. This conference would not have been possible without your invaluable contributions. A special thank you to policymakers who have joined us from government, and today they've stayed the whole day, unlike yesterday. We are grateful, and the private sector. Your leadership, vision, and dedication to creating an enabling environment for contract farming and agricultural development is essential in shaping policies that empower farmers, strengthen supply chains, and drive sustainable growth. Your presence here has demonstrated the importance of dialogue between governments, private sector, and other stakeholders in advancing our shared goals in contract farming. To our distinguished speakers, we are immensely grateful for the wealth of knowledge, expertise, and insights you have shared with us over the past 2 days. Your presentations, discussions have enlarged our knowledge and understanding of the opportunities and challenges surrounding contract farming. To our delegates and farmers, Nancy from Molo, are you still here? Thank you. Thank you for your active participation, your enthusiasm, and your interest in learning and sharing ideas. Your engagement in the session and networking opportunities has helped to foster meaningful connections and collaborations that will help lasting impact on the future of contract farming. Feel so much appreciated. A heartfelt thank you to the exhibitors who have showcased the latest innovations, technologies, and solutions to our participants. Your contributions play a crucial role in connecting farmers with the tools and resources they need to succeed. A special thank you also goes out to our media partners. Your support in promoting and covering the event has been invaluable in ensuring that we reached a wide and diverse audience. We deeply appreciate your efforts in making sure the ICCF conference received the attention it deserved. To all the participants who contributed in one way or the other, thank you for the passion, through dialogue, knowledge sharing, or partnerships are what make conferences like this so meaningful and impactful. To our moderators, to Nimu and Ibao, and the rapporteurs who will help us put together the report and come up with what we will do going forward. We are grateful that you are here. We extend such a heartfelt gratitude for your invaluable contribution to the success of ICCF 2024. Your commitment, expertise, and professionalism in guiding the sessions and summarizing the discussions were key in ensuring a seamless and enriching experience for all participants. And finally, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to the entire Sunflower Events team for your outstanding work in organizing this year's event. From start to finish, your meticulous planning, attention to detail, and seamless execution ensured that the conference was not only a success, but also a smooth and memorable experience for all participants. As we leave Nairobi and head back to our respective destinations, let us carry forward the insights, ideas, and connections we've made here. Let us continue to work together to strengthen the role of contract farming in achieving sustainable agricultural development, improving livelihoods, and ensuring food security for all. The journey does not end here. It's just the beginning. Together, we can build a future where farmers, agribusinesses, and communities thrive in equitable and sustainable ecosystem. We will reach out to you over the coming months. Are you going to give us feedback? Thank you. The conference will reach out to you in the next month so that we hear your feedback, and we can also, and it will help us be able to come up with the next points of action, including at the county levels. This is the beginning of real partnerships to make contract farming in Africa great. Thank you once again for all your invaluable contributions, safe travels, and we look forward to continuing this important work together. Thank you and God bless you.
This is a timely conversation, I believe, as we look to solving pressing issues in African agriculture. Contract farming, when thoughtfully structured, presents a powerful solution.
Business steps up to provide financing for the small-scale farmers in contract farming, that we hope that government also can provide financial incentives and access to credit, so that we can support many more contract farmers by expanding access to affordable financing through agricultural banks and microfinance institutions. And all we need for these institutions is the right incentives so that they can give credit to these farmers.
To harness the full potential of contract farming in Africa, countries must put in policies and legal framework that ensure fair contracts, transparency, dispute resolution mechanism, and the contract must be protected for both farmers, agribusiness, and also the business partners.
Contract farming can be an innovative tool for public-private partnerships and used in institutional procurements. So public institution development agencies and organizations can also be part of contract farming. They can be third party to support and facilitate contract farming, but can also be the parties to the contract.
Now, I'm very happy to be here so that I can learn more and even to take your contact so that you people can help us. Their people are very hardworking. I came all the way from Moro to this conference to hear and even to learn more about it. Please, please, please come to our rescue.
This is one of the ways we can enhance farmers' ability to source for resources so that we do farming properly as a business. For us to realize these aspirations as a government and as a people of Kenya, contract farming has a major role because we will have growth both by the buyers, the growers, and the country at large.
Well, this is the future. We cannot deny. But there are there's a number of bumps that we must level. Number one, we need a subsidized way of contracting. And we need the farmer to understand what is contract farming. Because sometimes they just get into it by faith. They just trust you and they don't get into a binding contract.
I've gained a lot of knowledge on what contract farming is all about. I've learned how to draft the contracts, the ups and downs, what you have to look for, the challenges that farmers, have, in a contract. So it has helped me to know what to look out for and what to avoid, when it comes to contract farming.